Do you know what's fun about watching what is going on in our world today? Is that I hope it's starting to make you realize no, you're not losing your mind. They are. Look, I grew up in a world where I never fit in. I didn't fit in school. I don't fit in church. I don't fit in amongst Republicans. I don't fit in amongst Democrats. I don't fit in anywhere except in the social media world with my little group. That's it. Not everybody agrees with every single thing that comes out of my orifice, and that's good. As I've stated before, I'm not into syncretism. And I've said for a long time that our culture, men and women, walk in lockstep with whatever corporate America does, the knee-jerk reaction. Most American Caucasian women can be labeled right down to, are you into dogs, Starbucks, and SUVs? Okay, you're in. Then you got that other group over there. Into plus size, a little bit curvy, BBW, a little bit fluffy, extra thick, condoning, enabling, and praising your obesity and your overeating or whatever you want to call it. And I never thought I'd see the day where I was made fun of all my life and still am. That hasn't gone away. Yet those same people that make fun of me are embracing stuff that truly is outlandish, outrageous, and is an entrance into the world of mental illness. NPR, let's talk about them. Let's start off on a positive. Actually, let's start off on why they're in the news. Elon Musk did what I call a historic slap in the face to NPR, which is long overdue and a long time coming. I think the guy is brilliant. Elon Musk is brilliant. I like his thinking because he turns on its head. If I do a video on YouTube talking about spherical heating, and notice I have to say that because the minute you say GLOBALWARMING, all the bots lock onto it and throw the video out, and I get punished. So much for freedom of speech. But Elon Musk has a sticker on NPR's tweets now. State-run media. NPR reacted immediately. They were very displeased with that. Please tell me that it isn't true. NPR, lie some more. Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies, to quote the song by Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks. I listen to NPR, and I'll tell you why. I used to. When I was in the 80s, I went through a conversion to Christianity in 1985. The girl I was dating told me that all my music was satanic. She was listening to heavy metal, AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, Motley Crue, groups that I was not into. I was into the 80s hair bands. I was into the 70s stuff and 80s. ELO, America, some of the Eagles stuff, Gordon Lightfoot. I didn't know Gordon Lightfoot was satanic by singing about the wreck of the M.F. Fitzgerald, a true historical disaster about a lake freighter sinking in 1975 on Lake Superior in one of the worst storms ever. I didn't know that Gordon Lightfoot was satanic when he sang the song Sundown. You better beware if I find you've been creeping around my back stairs, and talks about a woman. The truth about a woman. Getting lost in her loving is their first mistake. It's funny. Some secular rock musicians tell more truth than today's preachers in evangelicaldom. Let me say that one more time. some of the rock music that everybody called demonic and satanic, and Christians who said it has an African drum beat and it needs to be avoided. I didn't know it had an African drum beat. And when was it stated that an African drum beat was more satanic than a European drum beat or an Asian drum beat? That's rich. Somebody got racism? Perhaps. Look at the way I'm dressed. Isn't this fun? Are you transgender? Nope. I didn't take any estrogen supplements to grow my breasts. I didn't sew up my penis to become a vagina. I have no intentions of doing so. I have a feminine side, and I don't believe in 87,000 genders. I believe in male and female. Why do I have that feminine side? Probably because I was raised by a domineering, strict, abusive mother and around a passive dad who let her do it. Mainly because I was never considered a man by most women. I was small. I was laughed at and teased. And I wasn't transgender. I wasn't gay. I wasn't any of that. I was an unfortunate kid thrown into what is normal American stuff. You have to go to public school. And public school becomes something of the book of Lord of the Flies. When one of the sixth grade teachers, stepson, son, whatever, Billy, we will not mention his last name, was considered cool, I still look back and go, what was so cool about him? It's funny how kids gravitate that they will in their own minds elect or state that somebody's cool and somebody's not. Playground politics, man. Let's talk about them. Because we're going to rip onto NPR. We're going to rip on this trans thing, and we're going to rip on a lot of things. And I'm going to talk about my own experiences in life. Something that a lot of Christians don't even want to do. I struggle, and my struggle's real every day. I struggle with what's going on in this country. I struggle with the leadership that we have in Washington right now has clearly lost their damn mind. I struggle with the fact that not just myself, but many fine American men. One of them is a friend of mine, retired in Boston, 50 years old, retired. Bought himself a beautiful townhome. Overlooks an area that was designated for nature. Doesn't have to worry about development, noise. Women do not date him. He had hair loss. He had hair loss at an early age. And women are funny creatures, aren't they? They'll go date a guy that shaves his head with an earring in his ear that looks like a punk ass. Pardon me. But a guy who has natural hair loss, they laugh at it. They make fun of it. He earns more money than most of the women that ridiculed him going through schools in Boston area. One of those women that made fun of him, went and did in vitro fertilization because no man wants to marry her. She thought she was going to be involved with the Patriots. Even got to work in one of the press boxes, showed up one day in skimpy attire, and her boss said, "What are you coming in here like that for?" The woman is still full of visions of grandeur. She's getting up into my age category. She's no longer desirable. She's raising a daughter that's not entirely her own, or whatever the heck all that is, and making her exactly like herself. A protege, model S type, whatever you want to call it. Pulled up in my friend's driveway. My friend just happened to hear something, look out, and like, what is this? He calls her Ding Dong, which is a fitting name, and his car cam has caught pictures of her when he's driving out of his own neighborhood, and she's out there jogging, and she'll turn all the way around and give him this alien expression. She wears polka dotted outfits. She was cute back in the day. Now she's older. She buys classic Caucasian, boring clothing, Ross, Target, not sure where, pays too much for it, and it doesn't do her any justice. She has no personality. My friend's father, retired firefighter, dated this woman who encouraged him to sell his house. He did. Moved in with her. She encouraged him to use his money to help remodel her house. Pretty slick. Now he's older. This woman he's dating has been rude to my friend. I've had to tell my friend, I don't care if that's your dad. You don't need to take that. Don't go into her house. She'll be very rude to my friend and say, you need to take your father. My friend says, I have no problem taking my father, but she and his own sister stood up to her and said, no, I'm done with her. We men have been so backed into a corner, and I'm in no way attacking my friend, that we've been scared into submitting to the foolishness of our age. And I told him, I said, you have every right to say, Dad, I love you. I don't like the woman you're dating. That's your choice. I'm not going to go into the house. If you need me to do something, you call me. I have no problem getting you, but I'm not going in there anymore. Nothing good. It's got little pieces of chocolate in it. So back to Mammoth Elementary School. 1976, we left the big sprawling metropolis of Los Angeles and moved to Mammoth. To tell you where my mind was at, I was all excited to ride in a U-Haul truck. LA, right? Football teams and Dodger Stadium and the ocean and Marineland and SeaWorld. I love the ocean. I was so excited to ride in an old Ford U-Haul truck. I love trucks. I loved trucks. And driving from LA to Mammoth and my dad having his coffee, and he went to dump it out, didn't like it, got it at some store, and he threw it out and forgot about the overhanging box, and it went and splashed back all over him and the side of the truck. Beautiful. I loved riding in that truck. You could feel the heaviness of the weight behind it, and that old Ford with the big steel hood and a steel dash, and all the U-Haul hotline numbers printed on the dash, and the stick shift. Moved to Mammoth Elementary School, and the kids were playing with marbles. That was pretty cool. The kids didn't like me. I didn't do anything, but I was one of those kids that clearly was not going to fit into the club. Mr. Rennick. I was in 5th grade, and Mr. Rennick was a pothead. Smoked dope. He got his 10-year. They couldn't get rid of the guy. They had many, many complaints about him. I had actually wanted to be in his class because I heard his class was easier than Mr. Glendy's. But I ended up being selected for Mr. Glendy's class. I went out to the playground, and I didn't hang with the popular kids. And as I went out there, Billy, one of the school teachers, stepson, whatever he was, decided to harass me. And I'm like, man, leave me alone. I had just started going to school that year. That fall. It's funny how bad memories, you don't have to worry about passing the test of bringing to mind those things that cause scars. Billy had me on the ground I'm trying to get away from him. A ring of idiot students formed. Mr. Rennick standing at the end of the ring. Didn't do anything to stop it. In my anger, I threw a rock. I'm laying on the ground being harassed and beat on, and I threw a rock towards Mr. Rennick's boot. It bumped his boot, trying to get his attention. You're the adult. You're the teacher. Why aren't you stopping this? He reached down and grabbed me out of the pile and said, I'll teach you to throw a rock at me. I said, I was trying to get your attention. Didn't listen. Dragged me out of the... Didn't do anything to Billy. So I learned a long time ago something profound, and it is this. Nothing changes when you get out of elementary school. The size of the playground just gets bigger. Those same people that were assholes in elementary school grow up to be assholes. I'd be curious to know about Billy now and what he's all about. He's probably still the stud and everybody thinks he's cool, but I bet you if I was to stack myself up against all the classmates that laughed and mocked me, I bet you physique-wise, I'm better than all of them. Most of them gained weight. Most of them are not attractive. And my struggle has been real. I've been the runt of the litter. Moved to a town that had family names like Rowans, Nicolosis, Ladinigs, the Frederickson girls that were the hottest girls in the school. Surprisingly, Mammoth was mostly white. Sprinkle of Asians and a black or two. A couple Mexicans. And the biggest problems I had was from kids who had money or the popularity cult. We had the stuck-up woman, the small horse, the I can't even remember all the names of the girls that the Spanish teacher, Senor Naranjo, had sitting on his lap in gym class. I mean, I can't imagine me putting a high school girl on my lap, being in a position of trust, and getting away with that, but he did. And even my friend Derek and Pat both looked at me, and Derek would say, you think he's getting a boner? I said, who wouldn't with that girl sitting on your lap? And good old Jim with the mammoth yellow shorts, those paper thin shorts that when you were in middle school and you got a Woody, there was no hiding it. Girls on one side of the gym stretching, leaning over with their little budding breasts, and us guys going, look, her titties are showing. And one day, even me succumbed to the old boner, and I'm sitting there doing stretches, and my hands are between my legs, and I was leaning forward and stretching, and somebody has to say, what are you doing? I said, I'm stretching. Leave me alone. Why you got your hands close to your crotch? I'm stretching. Mikey's got a boner. And no, it wasn't for the guys. Then I remember my friend says, look, Shelly has hairy armpits. The branding and stigmatization that goes on. I still to this day remember the revelation that Shelly, who had red flaming hair like myself, had red hairy armpits. And I remember thinking, that's gross. And Shelly made fun of me, and a lot of these girls made fun of me, and they were gross. Gross. One girl with the last name of Ickes with acne all over her face. She was in 4-H. And it's funny, these people made fun of me, look down on me, and I just look at them and go, how did you become the who's who? And so I lived in my own strange world of being fascinated by snowplows and road graders and snowfall. And when the snow would start to fall at Mammoth Elementary, I'd tune out Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, and look out the window. All I cared about was big storms. And there was a friend that I befriended, and he was a troubled young man himself, Mr. Lawrence. His sister was dating a guy, and the guy would come in and make him hump pillows. I had nobody to talk about sexual anything to. I couldn't run home and talk to my folks, and I sure as heck wasn't going to talk about it with other students. And I remember when Mr. Lawrence and I were running from the girls on the playground, that what else was there to do? And our playground was really unique at Mammoth. You had the blacktop outside the building. You come out the building from the lunchroom to the left, and there was the playground with the old rings and monkey bars and slides and swings. And I remember Mr. Lawrence and I would get on the swing set and swing as hard as we can. And I'd start saying, U-Haul, the damnest, fastest moving company in the world. And he thought that was so funny. They made fun of Lawrence. They tried to pick fights with him. And at a young age, I learned something. We were running from the girls, and we had a cow pie fort along the barbed wire fence that separated Mammoth Elementary School grounds from that area of vast sagebrush called BLM land. There was cows over there, Bureau of Land Management land. And they had some rotted pieces of plywood, some cow pies, which are cow poo, dried about this big. We called them, prairie frisbees, whatever. They don't stink once they dry. And we pile them up in sagebrush and made a impromptu fort against the barbed wire fence. And believe it or not, the kids had constructed it pretty well. And we'd go and bother the girls and go run. None of the girls wanted to come in there. Ew, cow poo. And I remember Lawrence came running in. I crawled up in there, and he got on top of me. I didn't think anything about it. He said, I'll cover you, man. And he started massaging my neck and shoulders. No, I didn't have my clothes off. And I remember the power of touch. The power of touch. I remember saying, wow, that feels really good. I didn't think about gay. I didn't think about any of that. He didn't try to do anything beyond that. I went home to a house with a catch put on my door when I got home, to a mother that was moody, disgruntled, unhappy, would climb up to my father. I wish I knew Mr. Lawrence now. I wish I could talk to him with the mature mind that I have. The collective experiences to say, you and I got a bad rap. I don't know whatever happened to him. He moved on before I moved on from Mammoth. When I tried to show an interest in any of the girls, I was laughed at, mocked. Mr. Stapp left an indelible impression on me when kids were playing with. Mr. Holton was a smart-ass kid that he had built a Lego thing with a roof on it, wheels, and it had a little solar panel on it that when the light hit it, it powered a little motor propeller or fan or whatever. We had recess in the classroom that day for whatever reason, and the kids all picked it up and looked. It was at the front of the classroom. I handled it. And I remember Cindy and Matt and several others handled it. And the Lego started falling apart, and the kids said, oh my gosh, and they tried to put it back together, and somebody pressed down on the sensitive solar panel and cracked it. Well, you crack the little membranes and those little connections, and it didn't work. And of course, the teacher walks in, it's in my hand. I'm holding it, and I set it down, and Mr. Holton comes running over and says, "You broke it." I said, "I did not." And I said the truth of exactly what happened. And Michael was singularly singled out. It's time to go to the bus. And Mr. Stapp is slamming his hand down on my desk, yelling in my face. An ugly individual. I didn't like Mr. Stapp. His wife was much nicer than him. Drilling and screaming. I said, "It got broken. The kids were playing with it. They knocked the Legos. They were trying to put it back together, and somebody pressed down on it. We were all trying to put it back together, sir." No, he wasn't going to accept that. I had the unfortunate experiences of watching that when you had the popular crowd in the school, the teachers tend to decide with the cool kids. She sees them walking in a straight line. That's not really her style. And they all get the same heartbeat, but hers is falling behind. Nothing in this world that could ever bring them down. Yeah, they're invincible. And she's just in the background. And she says, "I wish that I could be like the cool kids, because all the cool kids, they seem to fit in. I wish that I could be like the cool kids, like the cool kids." He sees them talking with a big smile, but they haven't got a clue. Yeah, they're living the good life. Can't see what he is going through. They're driving fast cars, but they don't know where they're going. In the fast lane, living life without knowing. And he says, "I wish that I could be like the cool kids, because all the cool kids, they seem to fit in. I wish that I could be like the cool kids, like the cool kids." And it's repeat, repeat, repeat. That song didn't come out that long ago. Catchy little tune. The kids at school were not into snowplows, okay? They were into football. There was Mr. Ewing, whose mother spoiled the hell out of him. Mr. Ewing was one of those kids that I would always have a thorny and strange relationship with. It wasn't until I left that Jimmy calmed down and we ended up becoming loosely so friends. But Jimmy, he would tease me. When Star Wars came out, he bought every single action figure. When they played flag football, he'd come out dressed like the Washington Redskins in a full uniform of kid size with the helmet. Remember when it was little helmet pencil sharpeners and you could collect all the teams? He had them all. And he'd come running through the flag football dressed in full regalia, and even the other kids are like, "Really?" You know, and the kid has all the flags attached to his side and say, "I am the champion of the world." Stupid, right? I could care less about football. I really didn't feel like getting sacked and knocked over, and I was small. I stayed away from that. I didn't have to do anything. I'd mind my own business. The kids would come out into my lane and start trouble with me. So I learned to be alone is good. There was an old tractor tire hanging around the playground, and very heavy, taller to me, and I'd get that thing up on the way it's supposed to stand. I'd start rolling it around the playground. The kids made fun of that. "Look at him in the tractor tire." One day I thought it was funny, and I told a couple of my buddies, I said, "Put me in there and roll me down the field from the playground side down the embankment across the football field." That was a bad idea. I curled myself in the center of where the rim would go. And let me tell you, That sucked. Boom. And I felt every bump. It hurt. Went over the rocks down the embankment, rolled down the field. Couldn't even hear anything. I'd become one with the tire. And this thing went and petered out and rolled, and I got hurt. I'm like, ah! The kids were laughing their butts off, thought that was so funny to see Mikey rolling down the playground with a tractor trailer. That got quite a bit of attention. When I got up and extricated myself, I said, man, I don't want to do that again. That was stupid. Kids are so impressionable. Kids are so formative. And when they're rejected by the cool club, they're going to find somewhere where they're not rejected. Mr. Lawrence was disturbed. He would be what you call a troll kid, but he never hurt me. He never did anything to me, ever. But I was a kid, and I knew that everybody else thought Mr. Lawrence was a loser. So in my own way, I tried to distance myself from him. And of course, I was only there 5th and 6th grade, then off to middle school. And I didn't see him anymore. But I'll never forget when I used to go to Mammoth Creek. My dad worked at the insurance office in Sherwin Plaza. And I'd walk down Old Mammoth Road because I was not going to sit in that office all day and play with staplers, paper clips, and hole punchers. And I went down to the creek. I like playing in the water and hanging out down there. And Mr. Lawrence showed up one day. We were walking around. We went underneath Old Mammoth Road and we're hanging on the culvert with our feet dangling in the roaring creek, water going under it. And we went walking further up into an area that's private. And I'll never forget, he pulled his pants down, had the biggest boner I'd ever seen with all that hair around his ding dong. He says, hey, you want to? I said, no, man. I mean, I was appalled. I was like, what is he doing? And he named another kid that was on the football team. He says, well, Tim does it. He does. But we never did anything. Never. The only time he ever touched me was that time in the fort, rubbing my back. And then from then on out, I looked at Mr. Lawrence very differently. I thought, there's something wrong with that boy. But you know what? He liked me. He felt comfortable with me. And if anybody in the school had known that, they would have branded him an FAGGOT. They would have probably beat the crap out of him. Kids, adults, teachers, they don't always try to understand anything. And I struggled with years because Lawrence was kind. I still remember that back massage. It was quick. It was brief. I've been alone for 4 years now. No dates. I cannot believe how tantalizing the idea of touch is to me. We live in a world in America that is coming off the rails. And I say these things because you have trans and LGBTQ and all these added letters to this maelstrom. I spoke with a woman at one of the nightclubs. I shoot pool, dance, and just people watch, buy my club soda, and observe. She has a boy's name, doesn't shave her underarms, not what I would call pretty, and she wants to be a boy. She sat across the little cocktail table from me and says, I like you. I like your style. I said, well, thank you. She always gives me a hug. I'll never forget. She gave me a hug on New Year's Eve. I didn't know her then, but I see that she was a regular. And I said, you know what? Thank you for that. When you just hang out with people and they don't really know what you're all about and they start to see you, New Year's Eve comes and people are coming up and being nice. Because in our own way, we're saying, we made it through another year and may I see you at the end of this year too. But she had a discussion with me one night and said that she believed in 87,000 genders. Now, if I'd have had that discussion 20 years ago, I would have said, I learned as I get older, let people say what they say. Let them volunteer info. Learn from it. You're not going to change her. And I listened respectfully, thoughtfully. And when she was done, I said, I hope you won't reject me over this, but I'm one of those that believes in, yes, Genesis and the Bible, and that God made male and female. And surprisingly, she didn't get up on a soapbox and get angry and hate on me. She goes, well, I was raised that way too. But it really angered me that my brother had a BB gun and I went to play with it one day and my mom said, no, that's not what little girls do. And I'm thinking, well, mom obviously isn't paying attention. Women are in most of the movies today holding high-powered weaponry. Isn't it funny that not letting people figure out in their own mind how sometimes parents and society can push you in a direction that that same society will reject and criticize? People ask if I'm gay or I'm transgender. I said, no. I'm still turned on by tits and nipples. Women's, that is. But there's a dynamic that takes place. When you can't get a date, what do? Well, there's many things that people could do. Drown themselves in alcohol, drugs, go rent prostitutes, which I don't do. I did try that in Spokane. I had a couple times where I did a few prostitutes. I don't want to do it anymore. The Bible verse is true. She reduces you to a loaf of bread. That's it. And women are dumb. Women talk about equality. They're full of crap. Men have to pay women. Women don't have to pay us. Why is their sexuality and getting to touch their body worth a price tag, but ours is not? Just saying. Why can a woman wear a shirt like this, but I can't? I do what I do because all my life I was made fun of. It doesn't matter if I wear a collar, a tie. It doesn't look good on me. It doesn't fit me. Years ago at a Baptist church in Duluth, the girl I was dating told me she found this suit, a gray suit. Oh my gosh. She had me put all that on with the button-up shirt. She goes, oh my gosh, you look so different when you go to church. Everybody's going to be just impressed. One of the middle school girls came up and she goes, oh my gosh, Mike, that is so not you, and started laughing. She goes, I like the way you are, but that has got to go. You know what? I want you to think about objectively something. Who affects your life, your money, the state of this country more than anybody else? Is it people that wear, a neck cut out of their shirt like me? I don't think it is. It's the suits and ties. It's the one with college degrees. They're the ones that make decisions that affect our finances, Enron scandal, all this, the current administration. How about Mr. Lawrence? He was a troubled kid. Did he hurt anybody? Was he bold with me? He was, because he thought he could be. Unfortunately, when he pulled his pants down, that kind of had a stigma at that time, and I thought, wow, that's a bit much. And in my immaturity, I told other people about it instead of just keeping that quiet and realizing, this is what our society does. It stigmatizes and brands the hell out of people instead of trying to have understanding. Was I attracted to Mr. Lawrence? No. Do I wish I could go back and get that back rub longer? Oh my gosh, yes. Because I didn't see him that way. But when he told me that his sister's boyfriend would make him dry hump pillows. Now, what the hell is going on in that house, and where are the parents? My sister wasn't nice to me. She dated a guy named Lance who always called me a pansy, and my sister thought that was funny. To Lance's credit, he tried to teach me how to drive his motorcycle, which was too big for me. And it's funny what teenagers can just, the labels that they affix to you, and nobody knew about the home life I was growing up in. And my sister didn't know the home life because she was favored by her blood parents that adopted me. Blood is thicker than water. I've watched it. I've witnessed it. I've watched it with my own family through and through. I watched it with my aunt when she called me in Spokane years ago, and that was the first time ever I had crossed a line with her. I said in full volume on the phone, I said, I'm tired of listening to this shit. And I hung up and I never spoke to her again. I was going through stuff and she had called and she started praising. I said, I don't really want to hear about my dad right now. I said, I'm having a problem with my folks. Well, I'm not going to entertain any talk. That's my brother and I love him and you. And no, I don't. You don't me. I've tried to respect this family. I've tried to honor them. I'm done. And to be quote Bible verses by my family, thou shalt honor thy mother and father. It also says, thou shalt not provoke your children to wrath. My parents both did a damn good job of that. What does this have to do with NPR? I'm getting there. So when I dated this woman that ended up being my first wife through manipulation and coercion by her screwed up father, she insisted that my music was demonic, satanic. I needed to get rid of it. So we pulled out the metal galvanized trash can and I threw all my records and cassette tapes and we burned everything. I'm sure the neighbors wondered, oh, those guys are strange over there. What are they burning today that's stinking up the whole neighborhood? When I got married to my second wife, Christian rock had really made a turn. I went through the whole Christian rock movement. And as I grew up and matured, I realized that Christian rock didn't bring me any closer to God. It didn't do it. There's one artist that had a profound effect on me, and that was John Michael Talbot. He sings in a very interesting style, and only his music can really get me close to Christian rock. No. Then it was some rule that went around in Christendom: if there's something you enjoy, it must be from the devil. That whether you eat, drink, whatever you do all to the glory of God. And then while everybody was decrying Christian music, and I moved to Hong Kong, and we're jumping around, so bear with me. You know, I'm the king of rabbit trails. And I had a medallion around my neck. I wanted something associated with China. And I was totally enthralled with Asian culture. I went into this neo church, you know, kind of like what you see here in the US, the non-denominational thing. I had this around my neck. I went in and I sat there, and it was mostly Aussies and flaky white women in the very environment I'm not fond of. And a guy come up to me and he says, oh, hi, Chinese guy trying to be like our culture. I didn't like the church. It was more of the same. That manufactured plastic, silly music that they call praise and stuff. And I didn't get anything out of it. But I went, I was quiet. And on the way out, he said, you know that thing around your neck? Do you know what that means? I said, no. I said, I like Asian culture. Well, that is satanic. That is demonic. That is very satanic. I said, oh, okay. Thanks for informing me. And all my life, I've wanted to shout, you're a used car salesman. Do you care about me? Do you know what I'm going through right now? And you're focused on this damn thing around my neck. And that's what we do over here. Mr. Lawrence is a fag. Gee, the girls rejected him too. Who determines who the hell is popular? The schoolyard playground and school politics of thrusting wallflower girls and guys like me into this environment where a pecking order is established, rightly or wrongly. It's so Lord of the Flies. It is so Lord of the Flies. And now we got to listen to an extremism today that I never thought was possible. Even a school teacher, when I was on the playground, I was joking with somebody else and I said, "Oh, you humped somebody." The girls heard that, went and told the school teacher in my grade, and he dragged me to the hall, down the hallway to the principal's office. The principal wasn't there. He said, "Do you know what hump means?" I'm thinking, yeah, I know what it means. But I'm not answering him. He says, "I know why you climb the poles every day." Oh my gosh, that hit me so hard. Why do I talk about these things? Because I need to. I used to climb the poles. I was fast. I could beat everybody. There were 2 poles, telephone poles, and I climbed up them. One day as I was climbing up and pulling my legs up, I noticed a sensation. I'm like, what the heck is that? Of course, I moved my legs in and I felt it again. Welcome to puberty. I was having my first orgasm. The reward center had kicked in. I'm a weirdo. People don't like me. I don't fit. But as a kid, I'm not able to process that. But I'm still trying to get around other kids, hoping that I'll be accepted or people think I'm funny. And as I'm climbing those poles, I move my legs up and down and I'm feeling, I don't know what this is, but I'm loving this. When the teacher said that, this guilt and this shame hit me. Like, how does the teacher know? Here's a teacher who could have handled that much better and did not. Stigmatized. It's wrong. Man, I wasn't having sex with anybody. I wasn't pulling my pants down. I just climbed the poles again and again and again because whatever I felt between my legs, man, I want that. I didn't share that with nobody. Mammoth Elementary blazed and seared into my mind like those hot routers to scroll out font in wood. Nobody knew what was inside of me. I still had a view of the world that women were more mature than us, that women were ladies, but I looked around and the ladies at the school were not nice. I was a misfit. I was laughed at. I was bullied a lot. Mr. Rennick didn't deal with the kids. Should have picked up Billy and said, "What are you doing? You just attacked this guy?" But no, too many of the teachers at Mammoth, in the high school and the middle school and in the elementary school, sided with the cool kids. When I hear teachers whine about wanting a raise and this and that, and when I drove a school bus in Denver and I'd pick up white female teachers on field trips, I could not believe how immature, unprofessional, and rude these women were for supposedly being educators. Wouldn't even say hello to me. Okay, I'm not on the playground anymore. I'm not dry humping poles. I'm their driver. My bus is clean. Good morning. How you doing today? Ignored. Are you the teacher? Yes, I am. Oh, let's use that child-directed angry speech. And my mind is thinking, I'm your driver. You might want to be nice to me. Your life is in my hands. We're going to the mountains. What if I missed a turn and went over the cliff? Nothing changed from Mammoth Elementary. Now it must be tranny. No, I'm not. I've sat down and talked with trans. They're strange. There was a guy who talked in a femi voice, had on a woman's shirt on, and had hair all over his chest. I'm like, okay, if you're going to play the tranny thing, at least shave your chest. But I didn't do that. He asked if he could play pool. We played pool. I hardly ever see him now. Somebody told me he was violent, had beat up people, and every trans that I have met has mental disorders. They're not going to like it that I say that, but I understand the gay thing. I understand the lesbian thing, but the whole trans thing, then there's a whole new arena. But I don't harass them. I've been harassed. I know what it feels like. When you harass people, you drive them further into it. The Mormons with Joseph Smith, the guy was off the rails wrong. He was shot as a common criminal. The Mormons believe he was a martyr for the faith. If they'd have just arrested him and put him away in time, people would have seen him for the charlatan he was. The biggest mistake that can be made with the trans community is harassing and shit-shaming them. They want to do what they do, let them do it. Where I draw the line is stop pushing on us. Stop bullying us to endorse it. You want to walk around in a damn sports bra and talk in a fruity voice? Go for it. I have come to the painful realization of 57 years that not everybody's impressed with Pacific, and it's never going to happen. There's nothing I can do to put myself on the map where I go viral. I will never have the following that Oprah, Michelle Obama, and some of the most wrong-headed thinking people out there have. And the only reason I continue to exist is because I came into contact with God in 1985. And when you become a Christian, things change again. I was just becoming popular. I was in track. I had girlfriends. I had good grades. When I became a Christian, all those people walked out of my life. But when you become a Christian, guess what? Other Christians will walk out of your life. If you don't dress this way, if you don't cut your hair this way, if you don't do this and walk, lock, and step, and even the church is doing it. Now we got to have blended worship. Now we got to do like everybody else. We got to copy everybody. When you're a person like me who is unique and dares to be, you're branded, you're alienated, and you're not invited to the reindeer games. And you know what? There's a lot of people that listen to me that have gone through the same old stuff in different ways. They've been rejected, laughed at, and teased, and that's why they made a connection with Pacific Ocean Asia. Not because I'm some sort of god or deity. I'm not. I'm just a man talking out of the heart. That's it. And guess what? The bullies, the harassers are always there. Always. That doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. I never thought I'd see the day where being honest in America will put a target on your back. When Mrs. Thee, my sixth grade teacher, I don't remember what I was doing in class. I sat away from everybody. The classroom had two halves. And you don't want to know what I was doing, but I sat away, right in the half, back towards kind of a closet area. There were no windows behind me, and I liked it back there. I was now considered a troubled kid inside. I didn't fit, and I lived in my own world. And I don't remember if I disrupted class or was talking, and Mrs. Thee come up and slams the flat of her hand down so hard on my desk and gets within this far of my face. 2 days later, she jumps on me again. I don't even remember what I did. Don't make me slap my hand on your desk. That hurt. And I felt the smart ass rise in me, but I didn't dare. I want to say, well, then don't slap the desk, teacher. That's your problem, not mine. I mean, I work with kids, and let me tell you, they get on your nerves. But when you blow into a rage of anger, you discredit yourself. Women think by their yelling and forcefulness that I'm in control. No, you're not. You're yelling and screaming and slapping desks. All your teaching degree didn't prepare you for student management, did it? And look what I do. I'm the least person that would be, and I don't drive a bus anymore, but I still work with youth. And you know what's funny? There's a lady that texts me who's in charge of a special ed department, a teacher, showing me her farm, her sheep and ducks and guineas and turkeys and peacocks. She got a peacock on there. And texts and keeps in touch. And I was like, she goes, you're always happy-go-lucky. You were good with the kids. And she named a handicapped kid, said, that kid really likes you. And most of society looks at handicapped kids. You look at people today, oh, you're riding the short bus, window leakers, retards. Talk about a group of people that's branded. And all these popular, cool kids don't realize one wreck and you could be paralyzed and be in a wheelchair. How'd you like it if all your classmates said, oh, he's a retard now? Will Cargyle was a kid in class. I don't know if he was considered cool, but he wasn't hated. And after recess, or actually before recess one day, the teacher called everybody together and informed us that Will and his mother were driving from Mammoth down to Bakersfield, and the dead of night, there was a cow in the middle of the road, and she didn't see it and hit it. And Will's in a VW bus and went straight out the windshield to his death. And as a kid hearing that, it just stunned. Wow, Will isn't going to be here anymore. And I remember asking an honest question, and even in that, one of the other kids made fun of me. Peer pressure is awful. Kids won't ask, kids won't take a side, kids won't stand up for what's right, all because the cool kids. I saw it on the bus. Had to go toe-to-toe with a black kid who had issues, stood outside the bus smoking dope when I pulled up at the stop, blunt in the mouth. Opened the door, I said, hold it. Let me call my dispatcher. You shouldn't be riding. Well, you need to wait for me. I need to finish my blunt. I said, I don't need to wait for you to finish that. You know, you're supposed to be smoking it. That's my right. I said, no, it isn't. It's not legal. You're underage, and it's not even made legal here. And to call dispatch with a high school route and tell them the kid's name, the school, do I have permission to shut the door and go on? He's smoking a blunt, telling me to wait. No, you'll need to transport him and you'll need to follow up with your supervisor. I did not respond. I said, get that thing out and get in the front seat. Why do I got to sit in the front? I said, dude, you run your mouth at me every day. I'm talking to the school. This is not okay. I don't even know why you ride my bus. You want to smoke your blunt? You smoke in the back of my bus. Why don't you just walk to school and you can smoke and toke all the way there? Because I don't want to walk. I said, so why do you do it on here? You got something against me? No, I don't. I said, oh, you want to argue every day? And I said, and even now I'm trying to drive. I don't want to talk to you. we'll have a discussion with your principal at the school. Well, we can't prove. I said, I can. I'm a witness. And we live in an age that's funky. If students are written up on a school bus, this is what administration in the school says. Well, we're going to need to pull the video to confirm. Do you do that when a teacher calls the principal's office about a kid acting up in class? Oh, wait, they don't have cameras in the classroom. Interesting. Society's telling us that bus drivers aren't believable, but teachers are. Tell me we don't live in a caste system. And guess what? Bus drivers are exiting the profession of school bus driving because of the fact that school districts are no longer dealing with bad students. I heard a British preacher say it well. He came to America and observed. Teachers are afraid of the principal, principals are afraid of the school boards are afraid of the parents, and the parents are afraid of the kids. So I went from a society where this and this and this was wrong. Can you imagine if somebody tried to be trans back then? I remember when this kid named Jeffrey, everybody knew he was gay. He was in drama and acting, and I'll never forget when he did a play in front of the high school, and we're all seated in chairs in the cafeteria, and the stage is up higher, and my friend had to point out to me, look, Jeff's got a boner in his sweatpants. I said, you know what? Thanks, Derek, for telling me that Jeff has a boner. But it was so obvious. He had a pitched tent when he got out of bed. He was sleeping in one bed, and the student actress, a girl, was sleeping in the other. And Jeff got along with all the girls. They thought Jeff was so cute. Jeff was a roly-poly, rotund little boy that, in high school, who talked with a very femmy voice, and we all knew which direction where his elevation was going. I never harassed Jeff. I mean, I talked behind his back. And you know what? He got a high position with, I'm not going to say it and give it away, but a very renowned toy company. It's funny. What was made fun of back then, they got more rights and more notoriety and popularity than I do. And guess what? I'm still bullied and still harassed, and still, that never goes away. And the loudest statement I ever made was to myself in Hong Kong when I was walking by Victoria Harbor and said, Americans don't want truth. It is the truth. There are some that do, but Americans by and large, no. So NPR, I got so tired of the Christian music wars, I said, I'm going to solve this problem. The church says that rock music is the devil, Christian music is the devil, except that they're hymns. I said, I'm going to listen to classical. Nobody can find fault with that. So I tuned in NPR. They played classical music. When I lived in northern Minnesota, I used to listen to Garrison Keillor, Tales of Lake Wobegon, Prairie Home Companion, out of the Fitzgerald Theater in Minneapolis. I liked that show until one day I was doing something in the house and I heard him make some comment saying conservatives being fearful of gays. Oh, there we go. Lake Wobegon is be gone out of my life because now we're going to make it political. And you get the impression listening to NPR that they're so educated in the way that they talk. It's Soviet KGB controlled TV. And now they're mad and butthurt because Elon Musk tagged them for what they are, state-run programming. Can you get that label off of us? No. You're the same entity as supports the label. When I have a video doubting the last election, you got to have a sticker under my video. If I say anything about spherical heating that the neo-Nazi green movement doesn't agree with, oh, this is harmful. Really? You want to catch something? You wait for it. School teachers typically vote Democrat. So my growing up years, you had a Spanish teacher bouncing big-titted high school girls on his lap. He coached tennis, volleyball, and was a PE teacher and a Spanish teacher. And he got away with that year after year after year. My cousin informed me he finally got fired for some indiscretion. Boy, that was a day late and a dollar short. And why do I have it in for Naranjo? He was another long line of fools. When I was in Spanish class, I was actually listening. Spanish was interesting to me. What he didn't know is I was actually paying attention. I didn't hear something he said. I raised my hand. Yes, Mr. Nelson. I didn't hear you. That's because you weren't paying attention. I'm looking right at you. He sided with the popular kids. Let's put down Michael. I'll get points with everybody else. And they laughed. Ha, ha, Nelson. You know who the retarded people are? The cool kids. You know who the handicapped people are? The popular cheerleader girls. I won't mention her by name, Tracy Glover. Cute girl. I'm the cheerleader. Come around when I was in middle school and flash her 2 inches of tit meat at me 2 times. Shocked the hell out of me. I still remember her tits to this day. They were very nice looking. She wasn't doing it to turn me on. She was doing it to embarrass me, to patronize me. Did she ever get caught? Did she ever get in trouble? If I'd have gone in and told the administration, they wouldn't have done a damn fucking thing about it. But let me drop my pants and moon somebody and all them girls going to the office. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get a call to my parents. I'm going to get a SWAT in school and I'm in trouble. I learned very early in life, this society is a stacked deck against good stuff. If you're popular, you get a free pass. If you're a school teacher, you can abuse kids. You can accuse kids. Mr. Stapp blaming me for Holton's project getting broken when several students handled it. And I was careful with it. I thought the thing was cool. And years after that, because of the tone that Mr. Stapp said, Holton would still, you still didn't pay me. I said, I'm not going to pay you, dude. I didn't break it, so drop it. And then David Holton was the first kid to get an earring in his ear, and everybody said, is he gay? Oh, no, it's on the other ear if you're gay. David ripped the hardcover off both sides of his yearbook that he just purchased. He was into punk rock. Disturbed as fuck. I don't know what he does now. I don't care. Everybody talks about victim, women and gays and the harassment, and then people won't accept me. Man, do you see me on 2020, Dateline, 60 Minutes, Good Morning America, talking about my problems? They don't want to hear it. Isn't that interesting? To my friend in Massachusetts, an accomplished man. He did better than me. Made a goodly income. Made smart moves. Women don't want him. He's slender. He's in shape. And you know what's funny? I'm going to say it as direct as I can. I don't want a man for a relationship. Hairy armpits, sweaty. Men smell different than women. I don't care how clean a man is. Men smell different. Because of my own fucked upness, there are times I've looked at a man and felt that horny because I've been damaged. And sometimes I think it'd be a lot easier to be involved with a man in a relationship than a woman who's moody and up and down, and that thing called a vagina has more power in a relationship than anything. That once a month cycle, you can be getting along, and one day she just looks at you and says, "The fuck? Oh, what is wrong with you?" Nothing. And women can get away with that. We men have a bad day and take it out on a woman. Oh, man. World War III is going to break out. And then you go to church on Sunday. You turn on religious programming. Please check online for your kit on how to battle pornography. Oh boy, here we go. Don't touch your pee-pee. Man, if it wasn't for masturbation, I'd probably explode. Said one harasser on the internet. Pacific's going to masturbate himself to death. No, I got other things to do. I don't got time to masturbate myself to death. But it's interesting. Sting of the Police talked about orgasms. Did you hear Sting's song? It was brilliant. The teacher, the classroom, off schoolgirl fantasy. He admitted. Just because you're a teacher and an adult doesn't mean you don't have an attraction. And just to say that today, people rip that out of context. The Police, Don't Stand So Close to Me lyrics. Young teacher, the subject of schoolgirl fantasy. She wants him so badly, knows what she wants to be. Inside him, there's longing. This girl's an open page. Bookmarking, she's so close now, the girl is half his age. Don't stand so close to me. Repeat, repeat. Her friends are so jealous. You know how bad girls get. Sometimes it's not so easy to be the teacher's pet. Temptation, frustration, so bad it makes him cry. Wet bus stop, she's waiting. His car is warm and dry. Loose talk in the classroom. To hurt, they try and try. Strong words in the staff room. The accusations fly. It's no use. He sees her. He starts to shake and cough, just like the old men in that book by Nabokov. Did you know that nobody condemns that song? Did you know that women and men, nobody condemns that song? But take a man who's 60 years old, balding and a pot gut, and some teenage girl walks by with no bra, or better yet, he's watching his internet and TikTok compilation of a girl where the edge of the shirt is resting on the nipples, is bouncing around, and he's suddenly dubbed a pervert. Why is an old man that looks at a woman's titties flopping around a pervert? Why? First of all, I don't believe that. It's called Biology 101. God made us to be side-oriented. And when a woman's showing it, it doesn't matter if she's underage or overage. I don't know when people are going to realize lust and biology don't discriminate based on age. Women in our society do. Women in our society, if I was to date an 18-year-old woman at my age, women in our society would demonize the hell out of me. That is nobody's damn business but an 18-year-old in mine's. If I go to the Philippines, there are 18-year-old women in Asia that would love to marry me. Why is it such a hang-up over here? Because somewhere along the line, women said that it was wrong. But they have no problem with a multi-millionaire, a person of influence, having a young lady who's going to have her hand in his account. Do you see this? Do you see what we're dealing with? So I grew up in a fucked up world. Mammoth Elementary School was as fucked up as it gets. One of the most poignant moments of my life at Mammoth Elementary is when they had the 6th grade auction. They'd auction off students. And if you want to talk about a way that embarrasses the hell out of kids, the popular kids, they'd go for auction. And the money went back into funding the 6th grade graduation trip. And I'll never forget that out of all the stuff I went through, my aunt, who's dead and gone now, did the grandest fucking thing that could have ever been done in my life. And I never expected it. I wasn't preempted, nothing. when Billy and all the cool kids were parading around, and when the popular girl that all the guys thought she was hot, the janitor paid for her, and she got to drive the riding lawnmower, and it's where you're the slave for the day. The teachers get to use you appropriately to help in the classroom or whatever. When they went to put me up there, my name was mentioned. I heard the snicker through the crowd of the asshole kids. And my aunt says, $100. And the whole class was like, the fuck? I got the highest bid of any of the jackasses out there. Man, I told my aunt, I said, I love you so much. You made me shine like a diamond in front of all those people to think I'm a loser. Well, Michael, I don't look at you the way kids look at you. You're my nephew, and you have value. I've got a middle finger to this country because you know what? This country doesn't see that. And now you have woke corporations that want to value sleazebags, people that really got fucking mental problems. And women say, oh, you're disturbed. You have issues. Oh, yeah. And it was your group that got me there. But you endorse just crazy shit today. Budweiser. Let's put a trans freaky acting guy on the beer cans. You have to have a lot of that alcohol to look at a guy like that and think you want to fuck that. So maybe that's why it makes sense for Budweiser to get behind the trans movement. If you want to propel trans into having relationships, just have a few beers and suddenly your mind doesn't think right. And hey, okay, baby, I'm yours. But NPR, I listened to them for years, classical music. And when I heard Christians arguing over music, I said, I got you, I'll beat. Oh, how's that? I listen to classical. There's not a dang thing you can say. Oh, well, I don't like classical. Well, oh, I don't like your cheese whiz Christian music. Come just as you are to worship. Come. And then you say the word come over and over. I'm laughed at for climbing the poles as a kid, not knowing what was going on to me. And we got a Christian song that comes out where you say come over and over again. Yeah, that really is good psyche for me, right? I want to go and approach God and say, come. I mean, this is what the church doesn't see. And I don't just, I had people get mad on my YouTube. Pacific, you bring up good points. Will you stop talking about God? I can't. My life is not a compartmentalized thing. And that's why people do like to listen also, because I don't shy away from. I like walking into Home Depot to get building materials and see all the macho men with their mousy, fake dyed blonde hair, wives with their sweatshirts on, with their little stupid, I love my dog shit. And they stare and glare at me when I walk in with a shirt like this. And I just glance at them like, and? How am I affecting you? Society doesn't realize when you stigmatize and brand and make fun of and harass people, you drive them further into the shit. If you want to get somebody to come out from the crack in the cliff, don't fucking back them into it. You put a ledge out there and you be nice to them and say, come on, man, I want to be your friend. I know we don't agree. Love wins. Mrs. Keller, she was a yearbook teacher. She ran the library at Mammoth High School. She was one teacher that had a profound effect on me. I was in middle school. And they had the double doors, windows on either side of the doors, but the doors didn't. They had the panic bar on the other side you push and the door opens, and then they had thing where you grab the handle, push the depressor down and open it. And there's a gap like this. And I went, fuck you, and trotted off. Yelled it in the library doors. I wasn't directing it at her. I'm in middle school. Let's yell fuck you in the library doors because it's funny. Boy, if my mom had known I'd have done that, I would have had my butt tanned by my dad. I walk in there. Hey, Miss Keller. Michael, can you come in here for a minute? Sure. She brings me in her office. Why did you walk by the library doors the other day and put your lips to the doors and yell, fuck you? I want to say this is a trick question, but I didn't. I said, how did you know I did that? And all she did was lean and smile. How could I not? And you know what she did? She didn't yell. She very calmly said, what do you got against me? I like you. I like your energy. You're different. You like me? Yes, Michael. You're a smart guy. You're unique. You like me? I'm sorry, ma'am. I'd like you to join my yearbook class, Michael. I think you would enjoy it. Forget this positive behavior, PBIS crap. There are people that say it works. It doesn't. If you take discipline out of the hands of everybody, we got a nation of spoiled brat, egotistical kids that aren't afraid of nothing because they're not getting swatted anymore. But Miss Keller didn't need to swat me. I'd been swatted and yelled at all my days. But Miss Keller took an approach that wasn't PBIS. And people say, oh, well, yeah, it was. She. No, she didn't. She told me something I hadn't heard. She told me I had value. She told me that she liked me as a person. So instead of me feeling defensive, I suddenly feel like, man, I did that. I was being an idiot, but it wasn't directed at you. But it didn't matter. I didn't want to offend her anymore because I realized she was in my corner. When the whole school was against me, when they laughed at me and mocked me, no wonder I acted up and ran down the halls. And we had a fun night on a Wednesday night in the summer, and I made the mistake of going, and me and my friends were running down the hall, and I went outside and packed a snowball, the hall in front of the gym, and somebody turned the damn lights off, and I whipped the snowball in the hall in the dark. That was dumb. It hit a girl in the face. And Mimi Walker came and tore me the fuck up. Where were the fucking adults? Oh, they were all in the auditorium. We were running loose through the whole school. It's a good thing the adults didn't know. They would have tore me up for that. But so many times, things would happen to me when I didn't do a thing. You know, they had those McDonald's yellow trash cans with the dome lid and the push door on it. I'm walking down the hall. Out comes David Weldon. Pulls the top off, picks me up, and dumps me in there and slams the top down and walks down the hall. The football team thought it was funny to mess with me because I was no challenge. As I'm rocking in the trash can, I'm stuck in there. I can't get out, and I rocked, and it fell, and the lid fell off. Me and the garbage spilled out. Mr. Maruka happened to be walking by and said, Mr. Nelson, is there any reason you're in the trash can? I said, yeah, David Weldon put me in there, and I didn't even do anything. He walked on down the hall without even batting an eye, and he said, you probably had it coming. What kind of an administration would allow that kind of bullying? And I hadn't done a damn thing. It didn't get any easier either as life went on. Do I look at David Weldon with daggers in my eyes? No. we were kids. He's probably successful now. I know if I was an administrator, I would have said, what are you stuffing somebody in the trash can for? Would you like to be pulled from the football team? Quit messing with these people, man. You're here to represent Mammoth High School. Why don't you reach out to that kid that everybody's making fun of and make a frickin' difference in his life? He ain't going to be no football player, but you could have an impact on him where he could turn around. I respect Miss Keller to this day, and I don't even know what she's doing. She may be dead and gone. I remember Ken McCarthy. He was my algebra teacher. He was our cross-country teacher. And all the kids said he was a fag. They used to say, Ken Bud, and all that. And I got caught up in that. I never saw evidence of that. He had a beautiful wife. He had Volvo cars. He loved his Volvos. But one day, the team captain and several of us were throwing little pebbles during stretching at the girls. And Mr. McCarthy saw that, picked up me and Mike Ladinick and lined us up on the wall and grabbed the board and swatted us in front of the girls. They could do that back then. Did I grow up in angry rage at Mr. McCarthy for taking a board and whacking my ass? Nope. Even I knew he had every right to do it. I respect Ken McCarthy. He was a gentle man. He didn't yell and scream and act overly macho. I never saw him exhibit gay tendencies. And when I acted out of line, he let me know. He tried to encourage me to be a better runner. He tried to encourage me in algebra. He gave me a D-. I was bombing algebra. But he told my mother, I saw Michael try his darndest. He just couldn't get it. I have no ill contempt for Mr. McCarthy. So there were teachers that made a difference. And then there was Doc Jenkins. I didn't like him. He had a pig bucket in front of the class, a 5-gallon bucket of formaldehyde pigs. And when you acted up, you had to sit on it. Well, guess who was there all the time? I wasn't cool. I was made fun of in class. Class was boring to me. Doc Jenkins was boring to me. And I took a felt pen in its casing, put it on the floor, and took my snow boot and thought it was funny to stomp on it. I was trying to break the housing of the pen. Talk about another backfire faux pas. It not only broke, but the blue felt liner in there went and a big blue splat on the floor. And my buddy Matt Coleman says, "Oh, look!" Drew attention to it. Doc Jenkins came around and said, "Nelson, what are you doing?" I wanted to say, "Fucking got the usual." I was a squirrel. They called me Squirrel. What does this have to do with NPR? It has everything to do with it. We're pushed in directions. Christian music is devil and secular is devil. And I started believing if you enjoy anything, it must be sin. So I tried to follow this rigid line. I'm going to dot my I's. I'm going to go the speed limit. I'm going to use my turn signal. I'm going to claim my tips on taxes. I'm going to tithe on the gross, not the net. I'm going to do everything the way of Apostle Paul, a Hebrew of Hebrews, of the tribe of Benjamin, circumcised. And guess what? I did that for 14 years of a marriage, and my wife is sitting there saying, that jackhammer chipping marble. And so when I divorced her in 2007 and I wasn't going to marry again, and then I got online in 2008 and met a woman in Hong Kong, I lost my damn mind. I was taken by her brown skin, her long black hair, and all of a sudden I learned the difference between having sex and making love. And you know what? Those memories at Mammoth Elementary are fresh in my 57-year-old mind. I'm forgetting things. I mean, at the 57 years old, I'm feeling the effects of aging. It sucks, but look at me. Go back and look at my kid pictures. You can still see it. Go back and look at some of those pretty hot girls that were all that on a stick back in the day. I'd be curious to see what Tracy Glover looks like now. I'd almost put money on the table that none of them are foxes like they were. Allergy season. Matt Coleman came to Spokane in 2009. I hadn't seen him since 1983. He got a hold of me through my cousin, who told me my Facebook page, and he messaged me saying, I'm going to be in Spokane driving a truck, a load of dog food. Oh my gosh, Matt Coleman, I got to meet him. I went down to his truck, found where he was, took him to Top of China Buffet. We talked about Mammoth. We talked about life. We talked about the in-between. And I'll never forget, he looked at me in my red Ford truck at the time, which I don't have anymore. He said, man, we all made fun of you, man. Look at me. He said, I'm a big old fat ass trucker. And look at you, man. He says, you look good. You got physique. And everybody, if they saw you now, they'd be shocked. We talked about some of the hot, cool kids back in the day. Not so much anymore. In fact, if you were to drop my name today in any of those circles, I wonder how many would remember me. And if any did, they'd probably, oh, that guy was a squirrel. I remember as a kid, I got to pick out my frames. And they were tiger striped, horn rim shaped glasses. As a kid, I thought they were cool. I never lived that down. Mike Nelson with his Coke bottle, tiger striped, horn rim glasses. Ha, 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 ha. America kills hearts, kills passion, kills individuality. And now we have people with mental disorders wanting to be sharing the stage of popularity. The in crowd is always fucked up. Always. Whether it was at Mammoth Elementary or the crazy people demanding attention that should be ashamed. I know I don't fit. I know Christians would criticize this. You know why I do this? I moved to the South. It's hot. And I got a nice bout of poison ivy. I was cutting out some nasty thorny vines, the ones that grow from the ground and go up into the trees. Didn't see any leaves. This stuff's bumping me and my arm broke out. This stuff is just a ball, man. Don't scratch it. But these little nodules like seaweed puff up, and I just take the tissue and I just... And I'm doing some tricks to learn how to get over this quicker. If you just wash it gently, they'll beat up and ooze, but they'll stop. But calamine lotion doesn't always work. I took some rubbing alcohol. I'm doing some experimenting. I would love to meet Renee Fredrickson and Tammy Anderson and Tracy Glover and Mark and Mike Ladinick and the Rowans. I'd love to sit down and talk to these people today. Billy Leach. Love to talk to them and see where they're at. If they remember any of the things they, not the Rowans, but if they remember any of the things they did that affected me. It's funny. People say, oh, you're stuck in the past. Have you looked at American women and their rest me biatch attitude? They have a bad experience with a man and we got to hear about it for 35 years. Now, I'm not stuck in the past. But you know what I've learned? Things that cause great elation and things that cause great scarring, they never leave you. My first time into Hong Kong will never be forgotten. My first Major earthquake, 1971 Sylmar in LA. I don't remember the shaking. I just remember coming out of my bedroom and seeing a cereal box on the floor and the radio going, and the whole stations were talking about all of the damage. But in 1980, I went through it. I felt it. And I got up from the table and said, fuck, in front of my grandmother, which I never, ever did. And without thinking about my grandmother, I fled to the kitchen doorway, and my hands are holding the doorway of a 2-story ski house with a cathedral ceiling and watching the house do things that a house is not supposed to do. Going to Asia in 2008 was seared in my mind, just like that 1980 earthquake. Becoming a Christian in 1985 was just like the earthquake in Hong Kong. The 3 big earthquake faults in my life. And I might add a 4th, moving to Georgia and buying a home. And the first few weeks I lived in here, laying down at night saying, I bought a white elephant. What have I done? And you know what? The pressure still doesn't go away. Did you update your electrical? Did you add all these outlets? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you get those custom faux cabinets that are $20,000? No. The pressure to do what everybody else does. Black and white have walked through this home and said, oh my gosh, I love what you're doing in here. This is so different. When you be yourself, you're going to get criticized. When you don't follow the crowd, you'll be called a loser. And what Tracy Glover doesn't realize is I still remember those beautiful tits of hers. She didn't care about me. And I'll never forget, Annie Eaton did the same. Flat-chested. She's walking towards me in the gym and would say, hey, now, see. I knew when girls said that something was up. And I noticed her zipper on her hoodie was down to here. She must have seen my eyes. She unzipped it and flashed me. 2 BBs on a breadboard. Not bad looking, though. All those kids running around in the gym and the PE teacher, and nobody saw that. Let a man drop his shorts and show his ding dong and falls, and boom, it's over. And I wouldn't do that. And have women changed any today from what they were in Mammoth Elementary and Mammoth High School? No. Now I have women teasing, leading me on, coming here, sitting here in provocative attire on the futon on the other side of this computer. And then 3 weeks later, messaging me saying, you know, I'm confused about you. What do you mean? Well, you know, you say you're attracted to me, but you didn't do anything. I said, you told me you were raped. You told me that you don't want to date anybody. You told me that the men in your life have been horrible and cheated on you. You came into my home. What do you want me to do? Grab you and grope you? I don't do that. But you're the man. I expect you to make the first move. Okay, but we were standing in my room talking, and I said, you can sit there. You can sit next to me right here on the bed. We were just talking. She chose to sit there. You see, the loser that was made fun of in Mammoth Elementary is smarter than some of the, I bet you, I'll put myself up against all those clowns. They may be way more successful than me. I'll bet on it. They probably did. Stereotypical. Married the wife, got the house, dog, kids, and everybody thinks they're so successful. And none of them have done what I've done. None of them. And I've made fails and fails and fails. But guess what? I've sailed my own ship through a storm that most of them don't and will never know. The squirrel from Mammoth Elementary, with no help from my parents, with no help from the society around me, had to learn to figure it out, and had false start, and late buying a home, paid cash for it, no mortgage. Booyah. Go ahead, enjoy your debt and your interest payments. Enjoy it, wasting your hard-earned money to the bank. This house just kicked my ass. Taught myself how to do sheetrock and shiplap and my own trim when the trim at Home Depot is $3, $4, $5 a foot. And I watch high maintenance women with their macho men and they're staring and glaring at me and I'm looking at the molding. Oh, honey, I really like this. And she picks the most expensive kind that you have to get air compressors and nailers with staples. You know what? How about that 1x2 and 1x4 rough lumber? I'm going to get that. Ran it through my table saw and did an angle so that when it's on the baseboards, there's a church roof flat against the wall. But when the dust, you can just whisk it off instead of a square edge where it piles and permeates. And you can tell my distinct look. And then I did kind of the Oriental theme with the slight overhang. You know, I did that on all the doorways and the windows to put my trademark. And people said, man, I love your molding. It's called Po' Boys molding. Why do you got to do what everybody else does? Oh, sheetrock, you got to tape, you got to texture, you got to sand. It's a mess. No, you don't. Put up the sheetrock and you let it stay a while. Then you come back and you texture it and you mud it. I'm not doing tape. It's too putsy. I went the seams. Of course, it dries and shrinks and cracks. Let it dry good for days and months. Then hit it again. It's not cracking anymore. Then you take the end of your trowel and you run it over the wall where there's globules and knock them off. I'm not sanding and raising all that white dust. And guess what? My room looks like it has a stucco finish. Isn't that fun? You have to think outside the box. And I draw back deep into what I was. Do I hold it against Lawrence that he massaged my back and might have had horny feelings for me? Not at all. He gave me a touch I needed bad. And men and women don't know how to act. It's either sexual or it isn't. It's like an electric car. It's either push and go or let off and it stop. Push and go. If a man that I liked and respected came over and gave me a massage, I'd take it. I wouldn't want every man in here. It doesn't mean I'm all into that person. But no woman is going to come over here in America and massage me. But when I was in Hong Kong and I made love to a woman and we get done and I said, what are you massaging me for? Relax. Pacific, I want to. You made me feel like a woman. But Americans love to say things. Oh, they're all whores over there. Oh, they all just want to get here. No. They liked me. I didn't drink. I treated them like a lady. I valued them. Edith. She was my height, which is rare with the Filipino population. They're usually 5 feet, 5'3". She was pushing 5'8". Her, I was affected by a lot. She grew up in Bohol, the chocolate hills of the Philippines, and told me stories of being laughed at and called the monkey, and believed to this day, to the day when I was there, that she wasn't beautiful. She showed up in a dress and boots, and I'll never forget, I met her because she banged into me on purpose at karaoke. She put her arms around me and is dancing and moving her body against me. And of course, me as a biological male, I'm screaming inside going, my gosh, she's beautiful. No hang-ups. She's not drunk. She hasn't had anything to drink. And American women don't do that. And we went out while I was still there. She was damaged by what she'd been through. An American troop from the base knocked at the door and she was taught to be nice to the Americans and he asked for a drink of water and he tried to grab her. And in her defense, she swiped at him, clawed his face, and accidentally grabbed his dog chain with his military tags. He fled and ran. When Dad got home, she said, Dad, this guy came in here. Dad walked to the base and said, who owns these? She ripped them off of him as he tried to rape my daughter and fled. The Filipinos made fun of her. I overheard it. She wasn't with me because she didn't have the day off. I heard a bunch of girls talking about, you see that woman that wears the dresses all the time, the boots. Hi, Naku. Hey, hey. I looked at him and I said, excuse me, you talking about that lady with the real long hair? Yeah, yeah, her. I said, that's my girlfriend. Oh, I said, let me tell you something. Do you know why she wears the boots, ladies? I'm going to tell you. When she lived in Bohol, a Filipino, when her parents went to market, a Filipino that was a trusted neighbor came over, climbed on top of her in her bed, and tried to rape her. She went straight for his eyes, poked him in the eyes, scratched his face. He jumped back. She got up out of the bed and he chased her. She jumped out of the window and there were two rusted pieces of metal sticking up out of the yard. And she got both her calves and tore them open. She has scars there. And when she wears a dress, which is what she likes to wear, she wears the boots to hide the scar. Every one of those Filipino ladies and Maurices put their hand over their mouth. I went through what I went through at Mammoth Elementary to identify with an Asian girl so far from me, so far culturally from me. And Edith used to hold my arm and she'd suddenly just lean over, start kissing my ears and my cheek. And I just said, man, I love the shit out of you. It's too bad I couldn't have had her. She said, you treat me so nice. Why wouldn't I? I went through what you did in my own way. It shocked me. Filipinos laughing at one of their own? Of course, they do it everywhere. I lost touch with Edith and I'm sad. Of anybody, I wish I was still in contact with her. She was a gem. It would be cold in Hong Kong at Chinese New Year and we'd sit, there's no heat in the buildings. We'd sit in karaoke and she'd sit right next to me and I'd run my fingers through her hair and I'd smell her hair. She loved me stroking her hair. She'd lean against me and the other girls would sit there and stare at that, wishing it was them. But Tracy Glover flashed her tits at me when I was behind the racquetball backboard. My then friends Derek and Pat, I ran over and said, you're not going to believe this. Tracy just pulled up her shirt and bra and showed me her titties. Derek said, I said, come here. I was dumb. I wasn't stupid. I said, come here and hide behind the board. Let's see if I can get her to do it again. Brought them over. She didn't see them come over. And I kept peeking around from behind the racquetball and hiding. And I looked and I heard her say to her friends, watch this. She comes trucking across the dirt, comes around the corner, goes like this. You're shocked and horrified when Pat and Derek, oh my gosh, she screams and runs. She never did it again. Back at you, biatch. You want to shit shame me? I'm going to give my friends a free titty show. I didn't even have to pay to go to a topless bar. I've never been to a topless bar. Why? Why am I going to pay some slut tease? You want to pay slut teases, just try to get a date in this country. It's the same as prostitution. Pay $100 to get a blowjob. Or you can spend lots of money going on date after date after date, and she might let you eat dinner at the Y someday. But you know, there's men, not just me, but there's men out there. There's Wrangler Star and others on YouTube that are saying that American women are undateable. This is me coming from a culture of women that laugh their butts off at me, and they're still doing it. The women today aren't like they were when I was a kid. They're worse. They don't have qualities to be sought after. And yet, because this is the only culture men know, they're trying desperately to win that woman over. The woman who sat in here would text me and then break off, not answer a question, and I wouldn't respond. An entire week went by. Oh, I'm sorry, my phone was broken. Yeah, right. I saw you on Thursday on it. And you sent me that Friday. Okay. But I didn't say anything. I played along. I said, oh, I'm sorry your phone broke. I'm glad it's working now. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. A couple texts. Then she doesn't answer a question. I wait another 3 days. Hey, I don't know if you're texting me or not, but you can text me. Yeah, I texted you, but you don't answer. And then when I'm trying to be a gentleman, I have endless texts of an evening where she said, you're not normal. I said, what do you mean? I said, you send mixed messages, you come in a spider web crisscross with all your side boob and everything showing. Yeah, I'm feeling raging hormones when you're sitting in my room, but I didn't touch you. You've been raped. Why am I going to, I'm not that kind of a guy. Well, you're the man. You should make the first move. I said, gee, you were sending mixed messages. We had this discussion back and forth. Then I asked her a question. She dropped off. I wait. I ask a question. I'm not going to play that dumb mail game. Hi, how are you? Nothing the entire week. I've been off. She's off. Well, she's not off, but I'm off. And she's not white. She's Puerto Rican. Not a bad looker. But you know what? Pacific learned. I'll play along, but I'm not playing the game. I'm not going to beg her. And the older I get, why have sex? You know that relationally this would never work. It feels good to get an orgasm with her, but what do you gain by that? I've been alone for 4 years. She wants to play teasy, slut tease games, hard to get. Don't bow to that. And I noticed something. Her phone didn't break. She ignored me for a week and couldn't understand why I'm not saying, oh, where are you? What did I tell you before, gentlemen? When you ignore a woman, they can't stand it. When you pay attention to them, he thinks he can get me. Yeah, right. My name's Tracy. Can I help you? We live in a sick society. Nothing changed since 6th grade or middle school. Nothing. Those girls that I grew up with, yeah, they got husbands and houses and kids, but did they ever mature? They think they did, but no. Women in our culture today are extremely materialistic, narcissistic. Look at women today, where they're at. OCD over their dogs, their self-importance. So after listening to NPR for years, rabbit trailing, which I'm good at, I got tired of the leftist slant. And now you listen to their programming. If you listen to Tucker Carlson, did some snatches of some recorded video of their transmissions, and now they're just being ridiculous and favoring trans dinosaurs and saying that gay and trans love dinosaurs. And now you have Triceratops, and NPR has descended into the abyss. And they're pissed off and butthurt because Elon Musk put a sticker on them. I think it's awesome. I love it. When DeSantis sends a plane load of illegals to Martha's Vineyard, they didn't waste 24 hours before they got them back out of there. And CNN tried to do such a gloss story. We don't have the resources here. Obama's got a 40-bedroom house, I was told. There's 50. He could have housed comfortably 30 of them. Don't have the resources. And dumb me that was made fun of in school can see that when you put the shit right back in the lawmakers' faces and the Democrats, oh, no, well, we don't want them here. Of course, they want them in the red states. You ever hear about New Mexico having a problem with illegals? Texas and Arizona and California do. And New Mexico's blue as blue can be. I wonder whatever happened to the Mammoth Elementary crowd. I'd be curious to know where they're at politically. I wonder if any of them became woke or if they thought, my gosh, the world's going crazy. What the hell? And I don't care what anybody says. I don't think I'm God's gift to women, but I'll bet you I'm better looking than all those guys that harassed me growing up. I'll bet you none of them bought a house like this and didn't know what they were doing and is 75% near completion with no help. These kids got families and girlfriends and wives and support. I have none. You ever see the picture of the perfect storm? And it shows that boat out there on a wave coming up. That's me. By myself. Sailing through the sea of life. Tracy Glover did have nice breasts and nipples. I bet you they ain't pretty now. I'll bet you I'm better looking than her as a man naked than she is. I'd be willing to bet. Is that important? No, it isn't. But people in our society will brush this off. They do the hurtful things they do. They laugh with their friends, not realizing the scars that get left. Look at Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. Now, I was harassed and bullied a lot by jocks, by the famous families of Mammoth. And I could care less about the Rowans and Lundinics and their sports, and I could care less. Must be nice. I was adopted by a set of parents that I didn't bond with. I had a sister who was Mexican, and we were the misfits of Mammoth. That wasn't fun. So I lost myself in shoveling snow and thinking that I'm a piece of snow removal equipment. Why be human? When the orange snowplows would come up the street, I was in awe. When we used to ride the bus from Mammoth Elementary, I was harassed on the bus too. And I'd stare out the window, looking at the Sierra Nevadas and Mount Laurel. I always wanted to climb Mount Laurel and never did. Mount Morrison, the sawtooth, jagged, sharp-toothed look. Of a glaciated peak. And these kids are all being retarded and picking on me, and I'm looking out the window wishing I could live up there and get away from people. And some girl staring at me. Oh my gosh, you're so weird. Man, will you just leave me alone? You know, I'm not into Rush, but they had a damn good drummer. But they do have a song I do like. Supposed to be doing remodel shit today, but I'm not doing a good job this week. I've hit a funk. I've hit my downstroke. Rush Subdivisions lyrics. Sprawling on the fringes of the city in geometric order, an insulated border in between the bright lights and the far unlit unknown. Growing up, it all seems so one-sided. Opinions are provided, the future pre-decided, detached and subdivided in the mass production zone. Nowhere is a dreamer or the misfits so alone. Now, when I moved to Prescott, Arizona in 1983, there was an album I was listening to in Mammoth in my middle school years called The Turn of a Friendly Car by Alan Parsons. I loved it. Well, I had a turn of events. When I moved to Prescott, I had come off the heels of being made fun of and I was scared. Are people going to beat me up? Am I going to be harassed here? Even my mother got mad when I asked the guy in the shoe store, I said, do they fight around here a lot? My mother saying, why did you ask that? Because, Mom, I've been scarred. They don't treat me well in school. I don't want to go through this again. I went out for cross country and track, and I became known as a runner. The first school year I broke or held the school record at 10:24. The next year I broke it at 10, or that year I broke it at 10:12 at the end of the year, and I broke it the next year to 9:54 2-mile. I went from being called squirrel and nerd and Coke bottle to having people on the football team at PHS say, thanks for representing us, Nelson. Thanks for making Prescott look good, man. When other jocks were looking at me with pride because I had my varsity letter jacket and I was getting dates. And I got A's and B's in my classes because I suddenly cared about shit. Then I became a Christian and all that went away. My gosh. Subdivisions in the high school halls and the shopping malls conform or be cast out. Subdivisions in the basement bars and the backs of cars be cool or be cast out. Any escape might help to smooth the unattractive truth, but the suburbs have no charms to soothe the restless dreams of youth. Drawn like moths, we drift into the city, the timeless old attractions, cruising for the action, lit up like a firefly just to feel the living night. Some will sell their dreams for small desires or lose the race to rats, get caught in ticking traps, and start to dream of somewhere to relax their restless fight. Somewhere out of a memory of lighted streets on quiet nights. And it goes on with the chorus. And guess what happens when you become an adult? You think all that shit goes away? Oh, do you like dogs? Do you drink Starbucks? Do you watch Netflix? Oh, did you watch Third Rock from the Sun? No, I don't do any of those. What? You're weird. What? Because I broke out of the box? You don't have a TV in your house? Do you have a flip phone? I did. You drive an old truck? The peer pressure never goes away. You got people younger than me that just get married and they're going to go spend $250,000, $300,000 for a home, get deep in debt with a cardboard cookie cutter house that you can hear Sally flush the toilet in the next room. I bought a 1953 house. It was near ghetto and had to replace framing that was chewed up 6 inches from the sill plate of rats and rat shit and cockroach chia seeds in between the walls that high. If I'd have known all this shit existed when we had the inspection walkthrough, which they couldn't see any of that, I never would have bought it. But you know what? I've hit depression. I live in a black community, 57% African American here. Boy, talk about a education. This is a hard place for me to live. But guess what? By the grace of God go I. Tracy Glover's a memory. So is Billy Leach. I never did anything to Billy. And he kept doing the shit. He'd come up behind me and drill me in the sides. He never stopped picking on me until one day, and I didn't do it on purpose. You hit somebody in the side, you jerk back. One day he got too close, and I went wham and hit him in the nose with my hard head. Blood gushed out. Man, Nelson! And I turned around and I said, stop doing that to me. I said, you caused a reaction. Stop touching me. Get away from me. Go tell your daddy. You know, sucks when you're in an environment like that. You have no support. And Billy was the popular little blondie brat kid. I mean, this is life. And guess what? We had a pandemic, and Bill Gates and Fauci and Zuckerberg are suddenly stars. Oh, I didn't know that Zuckerberg was a medical scientist. He isn't, but he's head of one of the most major corporations out there, Meta, Facebook. Oh boy. Now there's a guy that would have been teased in school. He looks like a geek. Boring, monotone when he talks. But yet brilliant in the mind, technologically speaking. But he's not a constitutional person. He's not a purveyor of free speech. He wants it for him, but he doesn't want it for us. No, so how about Oprah Winfrey? Obese. How about Whoopi Goldberg? Obese, having opinions that disagree with millions of us, making big fat money and saying that we're privileged. Really? Oprah Winfrey has 5 mansions, count them. One was $90 million. I'm privileged, huh? $30,000 special that I've had to gut and redo by myself with no help to anybody. Try holding up 4x8 T111 siding panels and going over the tar paper, framing, tearing up the whole back room, replacing studs damaged by termites by myself, and having to be creative and put a 2x4 under the edge of the siding up against the wall outside with another board to be able to move it up so it snugs up under the eave and overlaps, and get the screw gun in the right place and draw a little circle on the wood where the stud is. Yeah, that one right there. I'd love for these mammoth people that made fun of me to see today. They probably still make fun of me if they never grew up, never changed. And I got a friend in Boston who told me something so sobering, it still sears me to this day. He called not a buddy, but a classmate. Yeah, you want to go together and get some drinks? And they did. And my friend paid for the drinks. And this guy still thinks he's part of the cool kids. And had to tell my friend, well, I called the other guys, said I was meeting with you, and they didn't have any interest in coming. Sounds like he went to Tax 101, right? It was the same crowd that didn't want to hang around my friend then, back in school. And I politely asked my friend, I said, why'd you even call this clown up? He said, I figured years had changed. My friend just proved to me through his own experience that Americans don't really grow up. When you leave school, what you were then goes right on with you unless you have a Damascus Road experience with Jesus Christ or you grow up or something. And I still don't got it all together. I'm fucked up as anybody, but you know what? I'm functioning, and I get up and I deal with it and face it every damn day. And I live with a government that's fucking up our country so fast, it's disconcerting. How sad I was that I wasn't strong then like I am now. I would tell Billy Leach to his eye, you're a fucking idiot. You were a spoiled brat, and you harassed and bullied somebody who didn't do anything to you. You grew up in a home. You had popularity. Why were you picking on me? What the fuck was your problem? And some people today, you do that too, you're going to pay for that. Here in the town I live in Georgia, a black woman got pissed at Popeyes because they forgot her biscuit, and she took her car and rammed it through the brick wall into the building. She's in jail now. Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. I was working Denver Public Schools as a school bus driver, went into the break room in 1999. You walked into the main room and there was nobody there, and I walked all the way to the end and saw some people crowded in the pool table room with the TV mounted to the wall. So what's everybody in here? Oh, there's some out of school shooting, so I stopped. something about propane tanks set like bombs and shooting. And when they finally announced where it was, the black women in the room gasped and said, "Oh my gosh, that's here." Columbine. I watched endless coverage of that because I lost my routes that evening for after school activities. Pulled up at Martin Luther King Middle School in Denver and LA. I said, "Where is everybody?" And I walked in because there were no cars. As I walked in, "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm the bus to pick up ASA." "Oh, we just continued that. Did you not hear what happened?" I said, "I did, but no, we're worried about copycats. So we're all after school stuff." And she said, "There's no school for middle or high school tomorrow." I said, "Yes, I was aware of that." But our society doesn't take it seriously, this bullying shit. And I said in a video the other day, some girl gets raped and killed and thrown in a river in Acme, Washington. And the society boo-hoos about it for 25 years. But when a guy like me is bullied, laughed at, and made fun of, nobody gives a shit. If I was dead and my body was thrown into a river, that wouldn't even make a news hiccup. That our society, "Oh, this poor young cheerleader, her life was snuffed out." And those same damn people that laughed and mocked at me and people like me and Lawrence, and there was no help and no support. And we got to hear about another girl who was so perfect, so valedictorian. Everybody loved her. I don't care what people say. When you tune into Pacific Ocean Asia, you're going to get the damn truth more than Fox. Okay? Because I cut through all layers. Our white society's fucked. Our African American culture is fucked. And what went on in grade school never goes away. It just keeps going on. We got the who's who of the social media tech companies. They're all the summer of stars. And then the Cash App guy that we really don't hear about can't even walk through the streets of San Francisco and is brutally stabbed and murdered. Waves at a passing car, people can see he's been bloodied. They drive on by. Nancy Pelosi's district. And as you said, I saw on my Facebook, those of you that are on it, I did a video where I called her office. So you're not doing anything in your own district. What are you doing? You bash on Trump, you bash on conservatives, but what are you doing for your own damn constituents? Did you do a shout out to Bob Lee, the Cash App founder? But we heard a lot of coverage about Christy Batista, an Asian girl showing cap and gown, went to a concert in DC and she was snuffed out by possibly a black man. They won't say they're an ethnicity. You ever notice they don't talk about the ethnicity if it's a black person who does it? But let that be a white person. It's all in the media. The media is owned by white rich people. Isn't that cute? The way they try to present themselves as so favoring to the black community. Okay. And what happened to the Billy Leach and the Tracy Glover era is that I didn't go to college. I'm not successful like any of them probably ended up becoming, but my mind has surpassed them all. Because I wasn't popular, because I was criticized, I had to learn to become a critical thinker. And I had to learn to say, who are my accusers? Who are my accusers? And one of the songs I identified the most in the Philippines was No Si Balasi. And when a friend of mine explained to me what No Si Balasi meant, I liked the song. I liked the tune. Kind of like 80s style rock music, Philippine style. Sung by Sampaguita. No si Balasi. Sino ba sila? It's who are they? A woman sung about her. People making fun and bullying her. Who are they? That even with a language barrier, I can identify with a song where another person's crying out, being laughed at, ridiculed, and mocked. Who are they? Who are they? Who are they? Are you the queen? And even if you are, so what? The Billy Leach and Tracy Glovers and the cool kids all sit on the toilet, and when they shit, it stinks. And I don't think that their poo smells any better than mine or anybody else's, but they forget that. And I don't know where they're at today, but I need to mention their names because that's something real that happened. This isn't embellished or exaggerated. And when the Billy Leach's daddy says, I know why you're climbing the poles, I should have said, why don't you tell me, Mr. Mauer? Why don't you tell me why I climbed the poles? And you want to elaborate on that? You want to shit shame me? You want to teach me about the bird and the bees, bud? Scar tissue is real. I went home to a family that they provided for my material needs. I didn't suffer of want. But I had no relationship with my dad. I had no relationship with my mother. I learned how to do chores, learned how to do things. When it snowed, I checked out. I was outside all day. I don't want to deal with her. I remember when they had to have a parent teacher conference at my house. It was Mrs. Thea and my mother. And in my poor, naive mind, I had shoveled our driveway and I kept our driveway so shoveled. And I remember I couldn't wait for Mrs. Thea, who always was angry at me, to see the shoveling I do. It didn't even register. I'm a kid. Who cares? We long and seek for approval from people that aren't worth our time. Mrs. Thea had a lasting impact on me in a very negative way. I know I was not an easy student for her to handle, but so many female teachers go into the profession not knowing a damn fucking thing about boys, not knowing about the hurts and the struggles we have, and not giving a shit, and siding with the popular crowd. The older I get, I don't think public education is for all. Running everybody through the same funnel is dangerous. I supported it when the public schools started getting secondary vocational classing, or Denver Public Schools with their CEC Career Education Center, where kids could do cooking and communications and art and construction. And, now you don't even get shop classes at most classes in auto shop anymore. Sad. I had those at Mammoth. Mr. Davis. And I took electronics in Prescott by Mr. Rettrum. And you know what? Prescott High School was well adjusted compared to Mammoth. Mammoth was too much immaturity of the popular, the who's who and family names. Prescott, it was all American all the way. People didn't vandalize the school. They did in Mammoths. I remember when we rolled into the school one day and somebody said, look at all the pretty flowers all over the windows. And somebody said, those aren't flowers, it's pot. Somebody took a stencil and painted every window around the school and door. Somebody broke windows in the back of the building and trashed classrooms. A lot of angry kids, rich, well-to-do white kids. Davy and Alex Drake, their father invented Hobbycraft, and Davy Drake would run his mouth at me all the time, some sawed-off runt of a jackass kid. And when I worked at the ski area, it was hot and I was sweating bussing table. And he just says, look, you got sweat. And I had a friend from Bishop. He'd come to work up there on the weekends, and this kid was mature. And it was then that I got a glimpse. Man, if you get outside Mammoth, you actually meet some well-adjusted kids. He hooked up with me on the workplace. I said, man, you're awesome. He said, who's this Davey? He's a fucking twat. And he went up and he says, he sweats because he's a man, dude. It's called puberty. Maybe you haven't grown up yet. Why don't you shut up, man? He works. He's a man. Men sweat, little boy. I love you, dude. I love you. You're awesome. Somebody put that little punk ass in his place. Two kids growing up in privilege. And you know, we had so much weird shit at that school. We had some lame band called Vex 13 with Holton, O'Mahony, and I can't remember who else. And they wanted me to do an open for him. And I did it because they wanted me to make fun of myself in front of the school. And I had to get up there and say, "This is Vex 13. And the band sucked. They made fun of all the music I listened to. And one of the kids there slashed the school bus tires. He's now in a rock band. He picked on me too. John Wickersham became affectionately known as John Wicker Slasher, got us out of a day of school because he slashed the bus tires. How he got 10 miles out of town with no sidewalks and on a highway, having to go past the substation, and went out to Mammoth Elementary to the bus garage. And all that's out there is an elementary school on one side of the road and a fish hatchery on another, and a school bus garage. And slash big bus tires is beyond me. That costs some money. I was walking middle school to the Safeway store, and there was a dirt forest area, and he catches up and starts harassing and chicken fighting and pushing. And I didn't fight. I was too scared to fight. I shoved him and he fell to the ground, and I immediately climbed and held him down. I put my hands down on his shoulder blades and held him. "Better fucking get off of me, Nelson." I said, "I'm not getting off of you until you leave me alone." And somebody from the high school came over. "Oh my gosh, Nelson, you got him. Kick his ass, kick his ass." I said, "No, I want him to leave me alone." What John Wickersham didn't realize that day is I had full opportunity. I could have went and tore his ass up. For all the shit that I went through, that wasn't in me. And none of those dumbass kids realized that. Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris took it to a level that I never would have. They brought guns and blew away people that had nothing to do with their bullshit. That young lady, that Cassie Bernal, I read her story. "Do you believe in God?" "Yes, I do." In the library. The school systems in America are raising dangerous children, folks, by immature teachers favoring the cool kids and laughing at me. I didn't think that way. My dad had guns. I knew where they were. They were not in a gun safe. They were butts on the ground, barrels leaning against the corner in the closet. I had to clean the closet. I carefully moved the guns. I never thought about grabbing one and going to school. John continued to threaten and run his mouth. And even somebody, I can't remember who it was, that came upon it and said, "Mike, kick his ass." And John's trying to negotiate with me, but not doing a good job of it when I have the upper hand. That me, who was made fun of, have him pinned to the ground. And he's there yelling and cussing at me. And failing to realize I'm not pounding the shit out of him. I had the opportunity to do damage, and I didn't take that road. Did Wickersham ever realize that? Probably not. I said, "You stop threatening me and you leave me alone. I'm tired of it, John. And I'll get off you. You walk away, I walk away." "You better not tell anybody you won." I said, "I didn't win nothing. You pushed, I shoved, you fell. That's it. This isn't about a bragging right, John. I'm asking for you to leave me alone. Can you get it, dumbass?" Society would have said, "Oh, tear him up." And I could have. That would have been his word against my word. Said, "Prove it." The guy's harassing me and tagging me, and I belted him in the fucking face. It wasn't in me. Now, today's a different story. I have 57 years of jaded shit happen to me now. It's like somebody want to come into my house, there's going to be a problem. That 3-pound chain I wear around my neck might come off and whoosh. But back then, I wasn't thinking about being mean. I wanted the problem stopped. And John never bothered me again. But even in the position where he had no right to talk to me the way he did, instead of saying, I'm sorry, dude, you could kick my ass right now and you're not doing it. Okay, I get it. I'm done. I'll quit fucking with you. He's still running his damn mouth. And I had the power. I said, I'm not getting off you until I know you're not a threat anymore. It's not the American way to do things, but it was the right way to do things. I didn't get after John the way I should have. I gave him grace that he didn't deserve. Yeah, I was hyper. I didn't fit. But generally speaking, I didn't try to cause trouble with people. There was a kid bothering me, and I turned around and said, you're a dick. Somebody in the hall heard that, told Mr. Maruka. I was called into the office and had to listen to the principal say, does he look like the head of a penis? Everything in me want to say, well, he actually does. Me getting in trouble when somebody started shit and they weren't called in. Teachers, faculty siding with the cool kids. When kids locked me in my school locker and I'm late to gym and had to bang around and make so much noise in there so that the math teacher said, what is all that noise? It's me. Can you get what are you doing in there? I said, I got shoved in and locked in. Good grief, Nelson. Let me go get the janitor. I walk in, Mr. McClure, Nelson, why are you late? I got locked in my locker. And I pointed, I said, right there, did it. He started laughing. He said, that's pretty funny. It's funny, nobody got in trouble for doing shit to me. Tammy Anderson. I thought she was pretty. Long, straight blonde hair, parted in the middle. I gave her a piece of petrified wood. Dumb me, trying to show expression to somebody who wasn't worth it. She mocked and laughed and teased me. Made fun of me. And I remember I knew the layout of Mammoth Elementary well. She was sitting on a cement pad outside the rear door of the school. Recess, and I went and cut through the lunchroom and came all the way around and went down that long. It was lit up, it was dark, it had dark paneling or whatever. There was no window in the door and it was locked from the outside. And I knew that, but it had the panic bar, and all I did was take and I went wham and pulled it shut real fast. Now you're going to go, oh, you didn't do anything to John, but you did this to a woman. But the anger was deep. Women were constantly doing stuff to me. I hit her so hard it hurt her back, knocked her forward. I pulled the door shut so no one knew who did it. I calmly walked out the other side of the lunchroom on the other end of the school and filtered onto the playground and watched from a distance the unfolding events. Teachers and women and girls huddled around her. She's leaning over crying. And I went and played like I was on the playground. Then I kind of gently headed that way and heard her, I don't know, the door opened and hit me and shut real fast. Ah! And I remember thinking, gotcha. If any of those teachers had known that I had done that to a girl, I would have been in deep shit. They never knew I did it. And I certainly wasn't going to confess to anybody. She didn't even know I did it. I never said another word to her again. Everybody gets all boohoo when something happens to a girl, and men's hearts are tore out. They're spat on, they're rejected, they go to work, they work years, they die younger than women, they get treated with contempt. But let a woman get hurt, or a woman get slapped, or a woman die or get raped, and the whole town goes on for 25 years. A special investigator who knew the girl was going to find the killer. But if it had been me in Acme, Washington, they would have said, oh, yeah, that's unfortunate, and buried it. Our society favors pretty women. Our society favors the cool kids. And it's the same thing with our media. It's the same thing with the who's who in Hollywood and the circles of Democrat influence and money and Silicon Valley geeks. And boy, are the geeks getting revenge. They didn't like being teased and made fun of, and now they're getting revenge worse than me slamming a door in the back of a snotty girl. They're censoring what we say. And I feel bad what I did to Tammy. It wasn't nice. The Bible says, seek not revenge, but I wasn't in a Christian mindset then. But my point is, when you're acting shitty, your consequences can have actions or reactions. I have the guts to say, Tammy, you really hurt me. Okay, you're not interested in me. That's fine, but why do you got to laugh at me? To say that would elicit more laughing. When you show sign of weakness in this culture, they turn and tear on you and gouge their fangs into your soft underbelly. I had no defense, no support group at Mammoth Elementary. I had to fend for myself. And guess what? It's the same damn thing today. I live in a society. Through my channel, through Facebook, I have a support group. And many of us that went through the shit in life grabbed onto social media because then we could become somebody. Thank you for listening, viewers. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names may never hurt. That's not true. Teacher slamming her hand on the desk and embarrassing me in front of the class, and then 2 days later saying, don't make me slam my hand on the desk. Don't make you slam. You're in control of your hand, lady. I don't know. I'm in 6th grade, and I know that much. You want to slap the desk and hurt your hand. Don't blame me for that. If I'm such an unruly student, take me to the principal's office, tell the principal what's going on, let him deal with me. Because you obviously can't. Mrs. Thee was a bitch. Was I a great, easy student? No. But did she have understanding? They might say, that's not my job. I'm here to be an educator. Well, part of education is being educated. You're working with students, not factory produced models that are in perfect complicity with you. Many people told me I should have been an elementary school educator, and I said, no. Michael's fucked up. I don't want to educate children. And yet God keeps putting me back with kids again and again. I want to get away from people. I want to work a piece of machinery somewhere and be left alone. Society scares me, cauterized me. I love people, but I don't. Strength comes. You got these women on Facebook that have 5,000 likes and 9,000 followers. And I've watched the deterioration from 2008 when I got on social media looking for a girlfriend and got all involved in Asia and Hong Kong and the Philippines and took me on a whirlwind tour, $20,000, and 4 years later of another failed trash can relationship. But nonetheless, that's less tuition than one pays for their damn college. I learned about human psychology by going through all that I went through, driving school buses for 25 years, working with troubled youth, watching my parents, watching people out the windshield of my bus. Society doesn't view things the way I view things. That's because they're generally wrong. But when I can look out my office, which was then a school bus, and I can watch people with Phi Beta crappa all over the back of their car, or my son is an honor student, or I believe in God, or I'm a fag, or I'm gay, and I support trans, and I like boobies, and silly boys, trucks are for girls. When I see all the different beliefs and politics and everything and bumper stickers on your car, I notice something. None of you know how to operate a motor vehicle. You can't use your turn signal, can't go the speed limit, can't stop for a school bus stop sign. And it dawned on me, guess what? The same shit that went on in the playground goes on out here. Put a bunch of bumbling idiots in a car. You get some impatient girl. The other day I'm driving and some black chick uses the right turn lane to haul ass around me. I'm going the posted 45. Cuts in front of me without a blinker, gets the red light. I move to the left turn lane, and all I did was look at her, and she looked at me with the typical black, I'm going to get into it expression. I just looked at her and just went like this. She drops a piece of trash out the door and turns right back around, and I had my window cracked, and I said, of course, another ghetto black woman that doesn't know how to drive. She heard me. And if she just said, roll down the window. I got freedom of speech, babe. Justice. Where's the justice? You're speeding. You're breaking the law. You didn't use your turn signal. Illegal pass. Where's the justice? People think I'm nuts. But I look at things logically and concretely, and our society no longer does. Black people whining about my race, saying we're this and that, and then you go and do that shit in traffic. Fuck you. When I think back on Mrs. Thea and others that they did not make a positive difference and I got held back in 6th grade, that was fun to be made fun of again by everybody. And there are school teachers that don't do their job. They just move them along. Nope, he didn't do this. He didn't follow his, didn't check. These are people, not packages. And our school system teaches kids like UPS freight, put it on this shelf, put it on that shelf, deliver it here. We're people. I have to tell people that I worked with in the bus industry, these are school buses. They're not UPS trucks. Quit driving like you're hauling freight. Quit running over the curbs hard and jerking your kids around. Quit hitting the brakes like this. Stop that. They're people. You're sending a shitty message to them. You want to win the battle with student management on out of control buses. Show your students you care by the way you drive them around in a 40-foot bus. I did slam on the brakes one time. I had enough. High school kids acting up. They had gotten on smoking pot at the bus stop, running their mouth. I told one to sit in the front, wanted to argue. I said, no, we're not moving. You sit in the front or I'm going to call security and they can remove you because I am done with your little custard lat stance game. I'm the bus driver. I'm not here to be an authority trip, but you have disrespected me long enough and you're not going to do it. This isn't even my route. You're guests on my bus. I'm asked to cover it because your driver doesn't show up. You have no right to get on here and treat me this way. You're lucky you even get a ride. These black kids are being taught that my race is so racist. And they can act like that and get away with it because our media and our school system lets them do it. Ridiculous. If anybody at Mammoth that made fun of me saw the stuff I've been through and the stuff I had to stand up and be a man in, they'd be shocked as hell. Man, we thought that guy was a squirrel and he's got all black kids on his bus that are all bigger than him, has had to face that every day. None of you would do it. No fucking way. Who's the lion and who's the mouse? Billy Leach, the spoiled brat kid that got away with everything and kept harassing and went out of a knee-jerk reaction. I went like that and he got a bloody nose. Pain teaches people a lesson, doesn't it? Billy Leach didn't want another bloody nose, and he knew I didn't turn around and go like this. He was begging me to do it. I should have done it. I should have dropped his ass right there and said, you know what, you son of a bitch? Wham! Now go tell your daddy I punched you. I'll go to the principal's office for that, and I'll wave my flag. Yep, I did it. Uh-huh. Billy Leach got clobbered, Mr. Popular. So, I believe in education. I truly do. I drove for it for years. But it's been hijacked by bullshit. Critical race theory, teaching kids they came from monkeys. And no wonder they're acting like morons. I said a mouthful today. I hope every educator in America listens to this video, whether you agree with my politics or not. I hope every educator in America in the public school system listens to this. You can make a difference. Start doing it. Stop coddling true bad people that are evil. Be smart enough to know the difference between somebody who's going through a bunch of shit and doesn't know how to fit in and can't fit in, and try to reach them. Try to care for them. Care for that white boy that you may think looks retarded and ridiculous with the thick glasses. You have no idea that you might propel him to greatness. Stop favoring the cute little cheerleader bitches in the school and the football team and the sports jocks. And you got small town America does that. I'm so sick of that. The white culture is guilty of as hell. Colorado, anywhere. The same girl makes the same news all the time. And, oh, she's the darling child. And she's a bitch to me. I never did anything to her. Oh, she's so great. Got this big head that won't fit through the door of the local whatever. Janet Hamilton was a good-looking girl until I was sitting in Schott's Bakery one day and she was seated at a table and kept spitting all over the wall. Oh, yeah, that was a trip. Girls could get away with all kinds of shit. Went to Disneyland on our 6th grade graduation trip, and I was attracted to Kim Barron. She was flat-chested. I thought she was a hot girl. Nope, I wasn't worthy enough to get a look from her. We go to Disneyland. She's caught shoplifting, and I was just like, oh, wow. And what was really funny is Billy Leach was at Disneyland. And I broke away. I hung out with Matt Coleman, but sometimes I broke away and said, I'm gone. And a pretty girl that had nothing to do with our school somewhere in Southern California came up and says, you want to ride the roller coaster with me? Girl, let's do it. Billy Leach comes up. Man, he was with this hot girl. Who was she? It's none of your business, chump. She didn't ask you. You're a legend in your mind in Mammoth Lakes. But this is SoCal where I'm from. And guess what? The way you see me is not the way she sees me. And when I moved to Prescott, it took me time to get out of that conditioned response. Loser, squirrel, Nelsie. That's what I heard. I had to confront a black couple older than me that were friends at a nightclub I went to. We had the same political leanings, and we could have some good, robust conversations, and I respected her. She told me about her growing up years, but she's dating a guy she's not sexy, no offense. She's a big, heavy black woman. She dresses nice. She's got a wealth of information and successful. And he's suave, ladies' man. And he just kept making digs. And one night he was digging and there was nothing to dig. He said so. I said, I'm sorry, what'd you say? He looks at her and says, you're smart. You got what I'm saying. She even said, he asked you what you meant. You want to tell him? I said, so you're making fun of me again, huh? And I looked at her. I said, why does he do that? She goes, he's being a butt. I said, well, you know what? I'm tired of that. He does this all. Well, now, Mike, we're here to have a good time, and we're not going to address that. And inside, I thought, okay, I get you. I turned on my heel, walked out the club, got in my truck, and went home. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sorry for myself. I thought, why am I doing this? We're not in Mammoth Elementary anymore. You get to make the choice. Pulled out my phone, blocked her number. Oh, she tried to call. I know it. 2 weeks went by. My truck had to go in for a head gasket repair, so I was truckless. My work is very close to me, so I was able to walk. When I did finally show up, I was playing pool with the guys at the other end of the club and thought, I'm not hanging out with these cats no more. It's not about bitterness. It's just get away from people like that. He comes over real quiet, not the big braggadocio. I'm the big high roller. My, I was just joking. I said, well, you know what? You took it too far, dude. But we always, I said, we joke, but there was no reason for that the other night. And I could have laid him out. I didn't. I just said, you know what? You got an ego that doesn't quit. I accept your apology, but it bothered me. Trying to justify it really wasn't an apology. Then he fist bumped me and he said, all right, man, see you around. He walked off. I thought, isn't that funny? I'm with the guys playing pool, and now he's not going to walk all up there and think he's all that. But he sits at the cocktail table, pulls it out, and he and his girlfriend act like they're an established thing there and that they own the place. But I kept maintaining, and I still to this day do. He comes up to the bar when I'm having club soda and says, oh, did you see that? Oh, yeah, I saw this on the news. And they're wondering why I don't come up and hang out with them. Because I don't want to. People don't change. If your fiance wants to come and said, I'm sorry, Michael. What he did was wrong. And yeah, I should have addressed it right there. You just want to come out and have a good time. Yeah, so did I. But my good time didn't matter. And this is what I've been taught all my life, from Mammoth on up. Oh, that's just the way they are. I've seen it in the workplace when you had to deal with a secretary you had to go to at Denver schools. Looked like she got hit by an Amtrak train. Not a pretty woman. Not a pretty woman. And you got to go and get a DOT form, and she glares at you with a look like she wants to start a fight. Doesn't say, hey, can I help you? So I stood there and waited. Nothing. She just stares. I said, yeah, Anita. I went to her boss. I said, it's really uncomfortable when you got to go in there and she's crabbing like that. Well, Mike, she's really good at what she does, and that's just the way she is. I said, so if I respond to you that way, can you remember that? Because I said, if I responded to you that way, you're going to have me in the office, right? Don't tell the bus drivers they're so important when their secretary can be a bitch, but we're not allowed to do that. Yes, American society favors girls. American society favors the cool kids. They don't favor me. I'm not looking to be getting Oscars and Emmys. I just want to be left alone. And I am more and more in the society. But they're making situation dangerous in a hostile American environment in every level, from workplace to church house to the roads for me. All the cool kids don't follow the speed limit, don't use their turn signals. They buy the fancy SUVs with the dog, and I love my dog, and I love my wife, and focus on my damn family, and drive like idiots. And they look at people like me still. Look at the moron going 45. It's the speed limit, retard. I remember that Mr. Maurer had a thing on the wall. It showed a guy in a lab coat with the pen protector and the glasses and said nerd or geek. And it had arrows pointing everything. The school made fun of that back in the day. And guess what? Those people, those geeks, became the head of social media and are pulling down billions of dollars. And they're fucking with everybody and getting revenge. And it's amazing, me talking like this on video will cause consternation and vitriol and reactions by people that are guilty of what I'm talking about. And instead of holding the full length mirror to themselves, which I've had a history of doing that, people have said it about me. Pacific holds a full view mirror in front of people. They don't like what they see, so they throw rocks at him. And it's true. I know the stuff I talked about is the past and life moves on. But I wonder if those cats that did all that shit to me changed. I'd be curious to see if they're still the morons they were, if they grew up. That's why I like the analogy of a ship. People in this country do things to people. They don't stop the ship and say, hey, I'm sorry. I hurt you. I'm sorry. They just do things and life goes on, and it's the collective. Then they wonder why somebody goes into a school and blows everybody away. Maybe some of that has something to do with it. But I never thought that way. That's not in my repertoire. But yes, I slammed the door in the back of a woman once because I'd had enough of the deep wounding and hurting of rejection and mockery. And if you're popular, it's okay to make fun of somebody. Oh, he gave you this petrified wood. Oh my gosh, he's so lame. Like, you're really going to go out with him. I know, right? Instead of being mature and saying, you know what? I'm not interested in you that way. So I'm going to give this back to you. Or, you know, thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate that, but I'm not into you that way, but thank you. Young girls aren't taught that anymore. They weren't then. And Mike Lawrence was rejected too. But he rubbed my back and touched my shoulders and neck. Did I have an attraction to the guy? No. But love wins. Touch wins. Mrs. Keller won. Mike accepted me. And even though he was a guy and he might have had some hormones going, what was I getting by trying to show up in school and just be there and try to get it together? Laughed at by teachers, laughed at by the cool kids that did well at things. Yeah, that caused scars. It sure damn did. And all those people went on down the road of their little party parade and said, Nelson, the damage, the hurt, the shit that people do. They don't give a shit. And that's America in general. Cumulative, constant damage. And then you become an adult, drive your SUV, go through the school bus stop sign and flip off the driver and think you're badass. Yep, you're still the same idiot you were in the playground. Somebody should have punched you so hard that your head went through the other side of your skull, because now you're a danger to society. We're being bullied. Our rights are being trampled. NPR is butthurt because they got a label affixed to them, which is long overdue. I don't listen to NPR anymore. Taxpayers, my tax, are paying for that tripe. A bunch of people that want to sound so serious and trans. They really like dinosaurs. Really. And guess what? Those people are still making fun of me. We live in a day and age where they're demonizing and bullying us because I'm a conservative and I'm Christian. And I say, well, there's right and there's wrong. What? How can you say that? I'm not even trans, and people think I am because my shoulder's showing. I bet you my body's better looking than Tracy's is to this day. She's my age. I bet you she looks nothing like she did back in the day when she was flashing boobs. And I say this stuff because it needs to be said. Enough time goes by, perspective and vision becomes so 2020. Budweiser making a woke decision just simply to net revenue. They don't care about morals one way or the other. They're just trying to make profit. That's it. Profit. And you got guys out there with guns blowing away 12 and 24 packs to make a statement to Budweiser, favoring the cool crowd. And you know what's funny? Is this isn't the cool crowd. And no, trans shouldn't be harassed. Nobody should be harassed. But you're going to put on stage the fringe minority that's got mental disorders. And that same, all these people on the Democrat left will still malign and put me down for having conservative beliefs. Who believes in sitting down and paying attention to a speaker, not pulling out your phone and crinkling your Brock's candy paper and making noise and disrespecting. That I learned the lesson that I didn't learn in class, to show respect, to be attentive, to be kind. Then now people like me are picked on by wackos on the left. That now drag queens can come in the libraries and do children's reading time. Back when I was a kid, they did not allow that. The Democrat public school system would not have allowed a drag queen, Fruit Loop, to come in and read to children. The fuck is going on? I'm not the same as I was in Mammoth. They wouldn't recognize me on the inside. But guess what? 57 years have gone by and I still remember those shitty things. And it's not that I sit there and keep a record. It's not that I sit there and dwell. It's just there. People try to say you're supposed to forget the past. That's not what it says. We're supposed to forgive. Now, the Apostle Paul says forgetting those things that are behind. That's in context of the Christian faith, yes. We can't forget scars. We cannot. And I don't believe that's what the Bible's trying to get us to do. It's telling us to forget those things that weight us down and make us unproductive. And unfortunately, I'm not always good at that myself. The echoes of the past, none of those people, not one person from Mammoth is in my life, except my uncle, my cousin that left there long ago. Not one person from Mammoth is in my life. I grew up in a small town. Yeah. Such a patriotic, such an American song. It's nice that he grew up in that. I didn't. I grew up in a spoiled brat ski resort town with spoiled brat rich kids doing spoiled brat things to me, getting away with it. Teachers favoring the cool kids. When the father of the Hobie craft sail surfing or whatever, when the younger brat kid is making fun of me for sweating, I mean, the stigmatizing that goes on. And when a kid from Bishop says, shut the fuck up. He's a man, he's sweating, little boy. Now shut him up. Yeah, you're the big cheese, Davy, because your daddy's rich. Well, guess what? Move one town over and they could give a shit about you. And all these girls, the Tracy Glover, let's take her to India and let's take her and put her in China. You think Chinese are going to go like this to her? 8 billion people in the world don't even know that you exist, or nor do they care. World travel has opened my eyes. I am a psychologist, not a licensed one, but it's certified and verified by going through life and just watching people. It's very interesting. You learn to see things like acting out, deflecting, projecting, denial, terms that American women like to use about men. And I can see that the women that are immature and using childish psychology from their limited sphere actually are showing themselves to be incompetent as hell. We live in a strange era. We live in an upside down world. Thanks for listening, people. Just boycott NPR and Budweiser. Boycott the woke. Don't harass anybody. Tell them, you know what? We're tired of all this. This is bullying and it needs to stop.